Good morning. We're going to call the council meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council meetings can take place in person as long as physical distancing of 2 meters can be maintained between participants. At this time, according to Alberta Health, public attendance at council meetings should be facilitated through virtual means. If you've submitted a comment request, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair may also ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic. And at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. We ask that only one member of the public speak at a time. All persons will be allotted 10 minutes to speak as per our procedural bylaw. We ask that if the meeting recesses, that any callers hang up and call back in as the meeting reconvenes. This helps with call quality. Please note this call is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the Municipal Government Act, Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. Additionally, our voting procedure will be modified for our teleconference meetings. I will call for any councillor who is opposed to a motion to indicate verbally. For any motions with expressed opposition, we will conduct a roll call vote. And because we're conducting this meeting as a hybrid today, we will start with a roll call. Reeve Link is here. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Present.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes.
Councillor Bigger. Here. Councillor Eichert.
Present.
Councillor Kester.
Here.
Councillor Armstrong.
Yep, I'm here.
We have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or changes?
Good morning, Reeve Link, Brian from Administration. I do have 2 additions. The first one would be under 4.2.6, Rigstar Industrial, letter of support. And the second one would be a Green for Life update, and that would be an in-camera session. Thank you.
So I'll add those as CAO Henderson indicated. I also would just like to add one topic for discussion in closed session, Ag Tech Corridor, under Section 21 of FOIP. Any other additions or changes?
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Councillor Armstrong has moved to approve the agenda. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We have the minutes circulated from the regular council meeting of January 12th. Any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minute.
Councillor Wilson has moved. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We have the minutes from the public hearings from January 12th circulated. Any errors or omissions?
If there are no errors or omissions, I'll move the minutes. You can move them whether there is or whatever.
Councillor Eichert has moved to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We had the minutes from the special council meeting of January 19th circulated. Any errors or omissions? A motion to approve. Also move. Councillor Bigger has moved. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We do have a 9 a.m. appointment. Would administration prefer we do, or is administration okay if we do the 9 o'clock appointment? And then we could do, is that all right? My apologies. We do have a 9 a.m. appointment with G. Fleet, Senior Manager of Government and Public Affairs of Explorenet. Mr. Fleet, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. are we set to go then, or?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I apologize. I'm not sure if you have a presentation you'd like to make or if you're just open for questions.
There was supposed to be a presentation that was circulated with council notes. Is that in councilors' hands, or?
You bet. We've got that with us right now.
Okay, so what I wanted to do was just quickly work through that presentation to get everybody up to speed as to what Explorenet's plans are in Wheatland County specifically. I can give a few details at the end of the presentation as to specific plans for the county, and certainly answer any questions at that point from anybody.
Well, through the chair, just for an explanation, the document that we have has got confidential stamped on it. Did you want to go in camera for this, or is this open?
It would be. I would appreciate going in camera. I wasn't sure from my back and forth with administration if that was an option or not. But if possible, I would appreciate going into camera for this presentation.
Well, if you don't go in camera, what you're telling us is broadcast out over the internet. So. Yeah.
If that is an option, I would prefer to take this presentation in camera.
CAO Henderson, we're going to
no
move
issues
into
with that.
camera.
Yep.
Are you able to set up a second call? So, Mr.
Yep,
Fleet, we will contact you with the line that we use for our closed session.
Okay.
Or our line we can use for a closed session.
Email or?
Yeah, we'll email it right over to you right away.
Okay.
Yep,
sounds
watch
good.
your email, Mr. Fleet.
I will call back in. Thank you.
Sounds great.
Perfect,
Thank you. I will move us in closed session. Is any councillor opposed?
Make sure I get the phone number too.
You bet, Glenn. Motion is carried. We're in closed session. And Corey's just making the arrangement. Under 2.2.1.1, there is a RFD from administration. Just to note, Explorenet did provide a draft letter of support template that we could use, or we could draft our own letter of support. And just to note that administration, at the bottom of the report, administration recommends that council support requests from any internet service provider regarding broadband that ensures broadband within the county meets CRTC objectives. And just for full transparency, the addition to the agenda, I'm sure council is aware, under 4.26 is a second company that is also looking for a letter of support. So just for full transparency, full disclosure. My personal thoughts are anything that can contribute to improving connectivity in the county, I think we can support. Personally, as long as we're consistent and are supporting any company that is asking for a letter of support for the Universal Broadband Fund, and that they are making a commitment to improve services in Wheatland County. Council's wishes.
I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with it. I think rather than use their letter, we draft one up that we can use for anybody that's requesting this, so that we don't show any favoritism to any one of them. So
I think that's a great idea, and then there's consistency in the
all we
level
have
of
to do
support.
is change a name or two in it, but it's a consistent letter but for any one of them that's.
That was my thoughts as well, as a letter drafted, not use their template, but because there's other ones that are looking for the similar, that we do the standard and have our administration draft it.
I'm seeing heads nodding.
Yeah.
So there could be a motion just, well, there is a motion, a recommended motion that council provide support to Explorenet Communications proposal to the Universal Broadband Fund by signing, well, this one says signing the letter, so we could change it to direct administration to draft a letter of support, just outlining that we support the applicant and anything that would contribute to connectivity, improved connectivity in Wheatland County, something like that. somebody wants to make a motion to that effect.
Donna, give it a go.
Amber said.
I think for this one, we would put this name, and then this afternoon, provided that presentation also outlines that they are committed to improving services in Wheatland County. I'm not sure that we would support a company whose draft plan or the proposal that's going to the grant application, if it didn't include services to Wheatland County, then I'm not sure I would prefer to support that. But provided they outline some commitment to improving services, then I think we would do a second resolution for that company. And if, I'm not sure about the timing, but I guess I think our next council meeting might be following the intake date, but there could be further tranches of grants that open up or intake times that become available. So we may deal with others in the future. But yeah, it would just be a draft letter. So I think this one we would approve for Explorenet, and then we could approve the same letter for any other companies in the future.
So that council provides support for Explorenet. Letter of support. I don't want. A template, or what do you call it, what kind of letter? Template letter of support to Explorenet Communication. For the Universal Broadband Fund by Wheatland County, signing the letter of support attached, template drafted by staff. That's what, yeah, thank you.
No, that's good. Okay. So essentially just we would be providing support to their application by signing a letter of support that administration will draft for us.
I enjoy putting you on the spot.
Is there any discussion on the resolution?
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And now, thank you for your patience. I apologize for that, but we will move to 2.11. First reading and scheduling of a public hearing for Bylaw 2021-02. Thanks for your patience, Sherry.
Good morning, Council. Sherry Barr is here to present first reading of Bylaw 2021-02, found on page 23 of your Council package. The subject parcel is located south of Highway 1 and west of Range Road 233 within the southwest quarter of Section 9 in Township 24, Range 23, west of the 4th Meridian. The location plan is found on page 31. The application is to redesignate 140 acres from agricultural general to a direct control district to facilitate the development of a 20.1 megawatt alternating current commercial solar photovoltaic facility and to align the regulations with the approval from the Alberta Utilities Commission. The area to be redesignated includes an additional area around the perimeter of the solar panels that will comprise 140 acres, as shown on the site plan located on page 32. The solar panels will encompass approximately 120 acres of the site. The proposed solar facility will provide power to FortisAlberta's electric distribution system by connecting to an AltaLink substation located 800 meters east of the proposed facility. Access to the site will be from Range Road 233 through an existing oil and gas road. The haul route map is on page 36 of Council's agenda package. The application was circulated to internal and external agencies. To date, staff has not received any explicit concerns from agencies. The application was also circulated to landowners within 2 miles of the proposed development to notify them of the application. For the public hearing, staff will be circulating again to notify landowners when the public hearing will be held and the due date for comments. The application was reviewed for alignment with the AUC decision, relevant statutory documents, and the land use bylaw. It was determined that the application aligns with these documents and plans. In conclusion, staff is recommending that council grant first reading of Bylaw 2021-02 as the proposal supports the strategies, objectives, and policies within the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, the Regional Growth Management Strategy, the Municipal Development Plan, and the Alberta Utilities Commission Decision 24266-D01-2020. Staff recommendations can be found on page 23. Staff is recommending first bylaw of reading 2021-02 be granted and that a public hearing be scheduled for March 2nd at 9 a.m. Council has three options before them. They can approve the recommendation, not approve it, or approve an alternative recommendation. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions prior to first reading? Council's wishes.
I'll move first reading. We're always open to hearing what the public has to say, and we'll decide after that.
Just for consistency with this, I am just going to ask for a recorded vote as well for both resolutions. Any discussion? There's a motion to grant first reading. Reeve Links in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Wilson.
In favor of first reading, yes.
Councillor Bigger. Favor. Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Councillor Armstrong. The motion to schedule the public hearing.
So moved.
Deputy Reeve Clausen has moved to schedule the public hearing as noted in the resolution. I'm assuming, yes?
Yes.
Any discussion?
Could put it to 2025.
Do a recorded vote. Sorry,
I could put it to 2025,
what is your motion?
as noted.
As recommended. All right, Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah.
Councillor Bigger. Favor. Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Councillor Armstrong. Motion is carried. Move to 3.1, Reeves report. It's on page 44 of the package. Oh, and I did just mean to make sure that all of council is working off of the updated or revised agenda package that was posted. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I meant to mention that at the beginning of the meeting. Just highlight a very few things from my report. I just want to I'll let council know that the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund that Community Futures Wild Rose is facilitating has, between the round 1 and round 2 at the end of December 31st, had preserved 134 jobs in the region. And I do have an infographic that I can circulate to council, just showing the different sectors that the loans were dispersed by, and as well as the different communities. And between the two, so I will circulate that to council following. I want to thank Deputy Reeve Clausen attended our last CMR board meeting, so I don't know if you want to jump in now or you can report on that after. The scheduling of meetings has escalated, coming closer to the due date for the growth plan, and so we're having at least 2 a month, I would say, sometimes with some workshops, and our TAG has senior administration, and their team has been working really hard from an administrative perspective as well. From the advocacy committee, following the development and completion of the growth plan, we will be coming back to council just looking for feedback on priorities. And those will be based on, I think the committee will be working on prioritizing those issues based on regional significance. One of the main challenges and concerns that I have with the current draft plan And it really comes down to sort of one supposition that the plan is based on, and that's around industrial land being inherently urban. And so when questioning the consultant who drafted the policy, he says that that's based on sort of planning practices or best planning practices, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily supported based on some discussion with our senior admin team. So essentially, what the outcome of that is, they are limiting any development other than country residential outside of hamlets, which we do have Cheadle as identified as a hamlet where there could be development, and existing ASPs. So we do have our existing ASP, which is beneficial in this case, but any changes to that ASP would need to align to the growth plan, which would preclude any development other than country residential in our entire in the rest of Wheatland County that is included in this Calgary metropolitan region. Extremely concerning, and also obviously concerning for our rural neighbors who are also in the growth board. We did have a Growth Management Board Rural Caucus meeting. An interesting discussion piece there was Edmonton is considering doing a bit of a more in-depth analysis on the return on investment for the Edmonton region to date. And some of the kind of informal conversation around that was that they haven't seen significant return on investment for the millions of dollars that have been invested in that region.
That's coming from Edmonton themselves?
That was from some of the rural municipalities, yeah. I think they're going to be developing more of a formal position on that. There has been some, I guess, campaigning or PR that's being shared, even within the Calgary metro region, members around just some economic development that's happening in the Edmonton region, and they're very much using the Edmonton region when they're referencing some of these ad campaigns. I did let them know that Councillor Eichert had indicated that he would likely be bringing a motion regarding our participation at CMRB meetings following the growth plan finalization, and at this point, no other municipalities are prepared to commit to that. There was a strong caution just around positive votes when you're absent and just not being able to make your position known when you disagree with decisions that are being made there. Something for council, obviously we can consider that when the time comes. I'll let Scott speak to, as long as you talk about the request for the extension. Yeah. You can do it when you do your report. Yeah. I just want to make sure council knows for sure. And just a congratulations to Strathmore Wheatland Chamber of Commerce. You guys did a phenomenal job with the virtual awards evening for our businesses, and they did a phenomenal job. I wasn't sure what to think about it being virtual and how that would work, but they did just an absolutely incredible job. And I know on the WC Infinite call, we heard how key that was. It was actually one thing that was getting through one of our businesses through this time, because they've been very challenged and are persevering. But this helped, the fact that they were nominated for an award. So we had several businesses. I want to make a list of the Wheatland businesses that were nominated, and we also had some of our Wheatland County businesses won awards. So thank you to the board for doing that, and for the organization. It was absolutely phenomenal. Happy to answer any questions, and I will move that my report be accepted as presented. Any questions? Any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.2, Deputy Reeves' report.
Thank you. My report's in the package on page 47. The one thing different that I did was attended the WID AGM meeting, which is really the first time they ever did a virtual one, and it went very well. They were expecting a huge number of participants and a lot of questions, and it actually was very minimal, very productive, so really good. The CMRB, I did a land use and servicing meeting on the first, and then the 29th was the board meeting as an alternate for, Relink. The one thing that was mentioned was an extension letter brought forward by Chestermere, for an extension to June 1st, if I remember right. And, so that would give, support from everyone. That's gonna basically give a better, I was on the fence about it because the longer the time goes on, does anything change for us? When we're looking at it from our perspective, it really doesn't. It's still, it is, we're there. But it makes it a better plan for the other partners. And there is definitely a feeling, and at least that I get at the board meeting, that this is way too rushed, and even some of the urban partners are starting to question a lot of things, so it's kind of falling apart. Calgary, in my opinion, is laying their cards down towards the end, so more information coming at the last minute that are basically getting forced through. That's about it I have to say about that. It's hard to quantify our participation there because a lot of it has nothing to do with us, and so you can voice your opinion, but nothing ever happens. I've voiced the opinion many times, and it's just glossed over, and away it goes.
Well, I think there are changes being made at times, but sometimes that frustrates me as well, because one municipality will note something in the draft plan that doesn't work for their municipality, and the consultant indicates, okay, we'll change that, or different municipalities have done it. Sometimes it's the larger urban municipalities, sometimes it is the rural municipalities, and changes are made. But what frustrates me about that from a process perspective is I'll be curious when those key pieces are presented to the board for consideration, if those are highlighted, that those are changes that were kind of made on the fly, because they're not even really necessarily being made with consensus or that type of thing. And there are separate meetings that are being held where certain municipalities are meeting with a consultant and sharing perspectives. It hasn't been made clear how that's being integrated into the plan, and if those changes will be highlighted to the board. And I think it's really important that they are highlighted to the board, because obviously the consultant had some rationale. I don't always necessarily agree with their rationale or the basis for it, but they have a rationale for what they're drafting, and then obviously, it needs to be dynamic and change based on feedback from the municipalities. But the process, I have to be honest, is incredibly frustrating, and I don't know if it came up at the last board meeting, but almost invariably at every board meeting it comes up that there's frustration, that some of the municipalities don't want to be there, when that's really not a topic of conversation at most board meetings. Our concerns with the draft plan come up, and that's valid and critical that we're raising them there. But a lot of the actual work on the plan, I feel, is not happening in board meetings. It's happening in separate, smaller meetings, and I don't necessarily agree with that process. I'm not sure that it's transparent, and I'm not sure that it's fair. I would echo what Scott says about the extension. It's frustrating because I'm not sure that the basic premise of the plan is going to change. And so more time is not going to fix that. I do appreciate that there can be some improvements. I don't feel like we are addressing a fulsome servicing plan. That's not being addressed. And
servicing is just coming up at the next land use and servicing, the draft plan. So yeah, it hasn't even, it's the first time we've seen it back from the consultant.
So we're 3 weeks out from our deadline, and this is the first time we're seeing a draft servicing plan, which to me it's a serious project management problem, not a board problem, but a project management problem. I have voiced this at the board, and I guess the only other advantage to having an extension, if one is considered by the ministry, is it would give us some time to conduct some engagement on the finalized draft plan, which may or may not be beneficial. Given the current voting structure, really nothing is beneficial, just to be honest. But I know we don't talk in depth about CMRB. I hope everybody appreciates the frustration that is there, but I do want people to understand the gravity of the impact of some of the draft policy, and it is potentially extremely limiting to economic development and diversification in rural municipalities. So that's, I don't want to be, go on and on about it.
When you mentioned about, last minute updates, City of Calgary, I think, had 2, if not 3, that were presented at the board meeting that basically that very morning, they had updated it to the consultant. So that tells you we couldn't do that as Wheatland County. They wouldn't even consider that. So Calgary is definitely dictating the operation right to the consultant. And they have the mass amount of staff to deal with it.
I do have to commend our staff, though, even with our limited capacity and our smaller team, they have done a phenomenal job in analyzing what's being drafted and worked on. Tom?
Is there any way for administration to track how municipalities get water from the city vote? I would just be interested to know.
I have been informally tracking that.
Because
like,
there seems to me to be, coercion's not the right word, but there seems to be pressure in there that everybody seems to be, they're not voting for their own self-interest, they seem to be voting for the interest of the bigger. Maybe I'm going down a rabbit hole here.
There is correlation. I can't speak to causation, but there is correlation.
I would like that, I would just like that brought out somewhere, just in the fact that, and so why would you play the game? I'm going back to, and you know where I'm gonna be as soon as that vote is.
I brought that up at a board meeting. I said, what does it matter what we do out in Wheatland County if we can provide our own service? Why do you care? It falls on deaf ears. They want us to take their service at some point. They want that. Oh, they would. It comes at a price, though.
Right back to Brown Kanye's day when we were talking to him out in Banff, and he said, "You are of no interest to us. We have no interest in you guys as Wheatland municipality."
There's definitely, obviously their interests lie in protecting their headwaters and like what's upstream from them, not necessarily what's downstream, which is logical.
We aren't even involved in that.
The other key thing, I think I mentioned it, but just to make sure, a lot of the work that I think should have been done for the actual growth plan and the policy is being put onto JPAs and is kind of being benched to be done in the future. So just frustration all around, but yeah.
Maybe you should explain what JPA is for some.
So JPAs are joint planning areas. They've identified 3 areas where there's intermunicipal collaboration needed for potential future growth. They've been identified as, I think, basically the prioritized growth areas in terms of residential, but also industrial and commercial development. Does that, I don't know if I captured it, but the whole plan is essentially based on place types and essentially, I think they're still including some quantitative requirements for place types. So ratios, you need to hit X% of this density for this place type, X amount of density for this place type. Obviously, they've identified certain place types that they don't deem appropriate for rural development. Their rationale is based on efficient servicing, and I really do not think that that should be a centralized decision. I think that that should be a decision where municipalities have the autonomy to determine if they can efficiently service a development and not determined by an adjacent urban neighbor.
When you look at the whole plan overall, you look at the commuter towns, and really it doesn't even fit into what they're presenting. The towns shouldn't exist in that planner's idea, really. Essentially, in the end of the day, that's what they're looking at. They want everybody to live near a transit station. So we've had many commuter towns around here. Essentially, this could, in my opinion, could cripple them to the point of 50 years down the road, they could be like Hazaras, viability. It's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't see it, but
anytime you're taking away just kind of that freedom for economic development to happen where it should. Jason's dying. Put a motion to approve your report.
I'll make a motion to approve my report as presented.
Any questions or further discussion? I might have to say if there is more discussion, we might have to recess for Councillor Wilson and come back. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll take a 9-minute recess and reconvene at 10:30. 9 minutes. We'll move to Division 1 Councillor report.
Yeah, nothing really to report. I'll just mention that I went to the monthly board meeting for the handy bus. We're starting to have a new manager. She's quite capable, and it is becoming a little more busy. And then I was happy to sit in on a webinar for risk management, wealth management, and planning the succession of count cap operations, farming operations. Thanks to Herb McLean and Ben Armstrong. It was very interesting, very useful for many producers. Anybody's interested, I'm sure I can get another invite. Other than that, I will move my report.
Do you mind just circulating the information about that, the upcoming one?
Yeah, for sure.
I dream of being a rancher.
Yeah, and just
but I'll share it.
Just to kind of go through who is a few names that people would recognize. Gary Ritz, the previous Conservative Minister of Agriculture, and he talks about how he kind of wanted to explain how producer groups have fallen short of lobbying different levels of government, and where there's some holes that perhaps the information from the producer isn't getting to the policymakers, which I found very interesting. And there's a few things that I will hopefully be bringing to the next ASB meeting on that, and how to advocate on certain issues and potential resolution on capital gains tax. So other than that, there was Brian Copperthorne, big rancher around Dog Pound area. He's heavy into hedging the cattle markets and risk management. So those were some big names there, and I will be happy to circulate any information and contact. So, other than that, I will move my report as.
Any questions? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.34, Division 3 Councillor report.
Yeah, Chamber of Commerce Mutual Excellence Awards was on last Friday. I will let them know about, I actually didn't get on because the internet was strong enough. But
Should have talked to
yeah,
Explorenet while they were
Explorenet should. So then we had a WC Infinite conversation, and I want to thank Amber and Reeve and Councillor Kester for joining in. It was a good session. Again, they're limiting them to once a month. So if anyone else wants to go in, I shall forward invites out to all the councillors. The one thing that we're really trying to help with is the small business, and I'm glad that they've come up with some kind of plan. There was really, small businesses are being hurt the worst, of course, and there was it was an emotional conversation. So going forward, I think there's a representative from the Labor Ministry that goes on, and I think my next we are definitely voiced our concerns about small business, and the next concern is going to be with I think the labor market. What do you call them? associates that come from, international, that come in every year to see what kind of plan, the programs they have, what kind of plan they have for, bringing in, foreign workers. Yeah, and if there's, no other questions, I'll, move my report as presented.
Any questions for Councillor Baker? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to Division 4.
My report is on the, I think everything's sort of been covered. The only thing I want to touch base on is, WRC. Has informed us at the last board meeting that they, would like to step away from the board. They do not, they have no plans to use our services, take the water, that kind of stuff. And on that note, WRC got a lawyer's opinion on how the separation is, and evidently, according to the opinion that we've got, is there was no the word escapes me. There was no plan set forward for somebody to step away. I myself am not 100% sure about that, so I would really like to ask council that we maybe get a lawyer, one of our lawyers, to look at this decision. I don't think it's fair to Hazard that they, because one of the opinions of the lawyer was, the main thing was maybe Hazard should stay on the board, so that because right now there's 5 voting members. If Hazard steps off, there's going to be 4 votes at the table. Never a good thing. So they recommended maybe Hazard stay on the table. It probably, in my opinion, it's not fair to Hazard to be able to put them in a position where they have to make a decision that is not
Affecting them.
that is not fair. So there's got to be another way. Try to find another person or entity to sit on the board in that situation. So I would just like another legal opinion on what that is, especially on the fact that our lawyers are more versed in the MGA and than the individual that was sought after and does this in Drumheller. Because the fellow that set up, the lawyer that set up the acts of incorporation has retired, so his thought processes were not able to garner them. So basically, I'm not sure what the proper protocol is, but like I said, if it's council's wishes, I would feel better with another opinion. Well, the thing is, though, we're now at 50%. We have 50% of the vote, right?
I think as a significant shareholder, though, like it would be within our shareholder rights to just have the board documentation reviewed. I would defer to administration if they can advise on this, but
Sorry, we need to go back to the board and say we would like to see a second opinion. Recommendation.
Yeah, but I'm also conscious of the fact that we're more of a position to be able to afford this second opinion. That I would be hesitant to ask the board to provide a second opinion in the fact that the board is strapped right now. We cannot afford this, right? So I'm looking for.
You could, if we ask for the opinion, it's gonna cost us anyways. So if you're looking at that, you can always go to the board and say that Wheatland would like to have a second opinion from someone that's more in the know, and we're willing to pay for that second opinion, because if you do it on your own, you're gonna pay for it anyway. But I don't think it's right for us to overstep them and do that. Because when you get that opinion, what are you gonna do with it? Now you're gonna take it back to the board and say, we got this opinion. Well, they said, we'll give you permission to get that. So take it back to the board and ask them if they're willing to go for a second opinion with someone that knows in that type of litigation or contracts or whatever.
If I could just ask administration, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I knew nothing about this before this meeting. So if administration would like some time to research sort of proper protocols and what would be most appropriate, I respect that. You could perhaps bring an RFD back, or I'm not sure if you're prepared to advise if we would be in line as a shareholder just looking for our own legal opinion on.
Yes, Reeve-Link, Brian from administration. There would be no problem getting a legal opinion on it. My guess would be that whatever legal opinion came back, that the board members and council would share that opinion with the board, just to help the board make the most informed decision that they can. I guess one very positive thing about this is that everyone is in agreement that the shareholder does no longer want to be a shareholder. So there is no real argument of that piece. It's just literally how to handle the dissolution of the shareholder. There is a piece in I think it's a unanimous shareholder agreement that does speak to it. But if council wants to get an opinion proactively and just share it with the board, I don't think that would cause any harm. Just trying to be helpful board members. It's not our shares, and it's just literally to help the corporation as an entity. So I don't think there would be a problem at all.
You don't think that, if council's gonna do that, that they, notify that board and let them know that that's what we're doing, so they know up front that that's where we're headed?
We can for sure. Maybe it would be advantageous to wait until February 17th. I think that's either the board meeting or a budget meeting, and just see if they want to proceed that way. Because if it's not clear for the board on how to proceed, because this is an action of the board, and ultimately the board gets the final decision on how this share gets, I guess, dissolved or redistributed. I guess council could make a resolution today, say like pending board approval to proceed with a second legal opinion. That could be an option as well if you do want to wait from consent from the board. But I guess to me, I would personally see no problem with it, but I guess it's realistically at the will of council and whatever the board members think would be the best for the organization.
Yeah, because at the board, we don't know it'll be up for discussion, obviously. I don't know what's gonna happen with it, if Hazard's gonna wanna stay, or if that's what they're gonna wanna do. I honestly don't think they will, but that could change. There is a question of a value of the shares, and I think that's where, if there's a value established to it that has to be paid from somewhere, that's when we would probably have to get in a legal on that. Now, I don't want to call it a second legal opinion. I'd just like a review of the documents from our not from our perspective, but just to make sure there's the value. And I think there's already some information in there about an exit clause from what I read. I know Brian has looked at that too, but it didn't seem to reflect in that document that we saw. But we haven't had a chance to bring it up at the board either.
Right. So maybe I'll just wait.
Thinking that might be the smartest thing to do.
I will bring it up. Yeah. I will bring it up at the next board meeting that we're gonna be. We will inform them that we'll be looking for, because it's not a second legal opinion. It is.
It would be our legal opinion.
I want to see what all our options are, and I don't believe they're being laid out.
I mean, I wouldn't blame Rocky Ford and Standard doing the same to make sure that their document isn't a liability larger than they think it is.
Well, and we have to keep in mind that the Wheatland Regional Corporation is unique, and it's governed we're used to governing municipalities where, we're all representing Wheatland County. Wheatland Regional Corporation is a corporation, so while we're a shareholder there and we sit on the board, we do still have interests that we need to look out for from our own perspective. So I don't think it's out of line, and I'm open, obviously, to other opinions on this, but I don't think it's out of line for a shareholder just to ensure that they're position or whatever is looked out for.
And through the chair, I don't think it's out of line either, but I think you don't do it in absence of the board, that they're aware that that's what you're doing up front.
Yeah, no, this is a partnership, and we certainly want to contribute to that partnership and to the relationships on that board, so absolutely. And it's a really good point you raised, Councillor Armstrong. I completely agree.
What we can do is just say, when it comes to the board, we'll just say we'll have to review it with our administration and possibly legal, whatever comes of it, right?
What's the timing of that? I'm just thinking, I'm just more comfortable when administration has a chance to kind of review a request in advance and bring something to council for consideration, like a more formal RFD or that type of thing. But I don't know how the timing works. When is your next WRC board meeting, I guess?
I believe it's February 17th.
So following our next council meeting.
Yes.
I don't think this is gonna happen fast. It's gonna take months to do. I don't think it's imminent that we have to get an opinion now. I would certainly, as Ben suggested, talk it over with the board, see what their next steps are for, maybe Hazar just decides to stay in, we don't know, and discuss it at the board level. And if it comes to they're going to have to get a lawyer to draw up the documents, at that time, for sure, we can go get an opinion if you want. But I wouldn't run and get one right now, because you don't even know which direction they're going in. And that won't be decided at the next meeting, because it's just can't do it. You have to get documents drawn up, and you have to find a lawyer. Maybe the relevant discussion at the next meeting is finding a lawyer to do this work for the corporation and have some input on it.
Further to that, to discuss when the partner is leaving, who covers what expense.
Yeah, there will be a lot of complexities
for sure.
Work out,
because it's their choice, right?
I think, other than that, their WRC is moving offices. They'll be moving into the standard water treatment plant. I believe they're planning on moving February 19th. So that covers what I have in my report, and I will move my report.
Any questions for Councillor Eichert? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Move to 3.6, Division 6, Councillor report.
I have my report on the server there. Being that the report had to be handed in on January 15th, I have a few meetings I attended after that date. I also, on the 14th, participated or attended the WRD virtual AGM. I thought went very well. I had a rather, I don't want to use the word busy month for Wheatland Housing, being with the building committee, the grievance committee, union. It was, we had meetings on the 25th. And then on the 26th, we had Badem's union meeting. It was by Zoom. That meeting was our first meeting in just about a year. I think we were short a day on the year. Last meeting we had in January, I think it was. I could look it up exactly, but the union presented a list of what they thought they wanted, and we either agreed to it all or we go to mediation. We couldn't agree. We went to mediation. That was on the 26th. And after spending most of the day listening and being in our own private chat rooms, the union has decided they want to go to arbitration. So I don't know how long that's going to take, but it could be another year to get the arbitration board set up. So that's where that is. And yeah, on the 27th, I listened in on infinite possibilities. I thought it was, for the small businesses in the county, it's probably a pretty good thing to go and have a place to voice your concerns and be heard and talk about it. That's always helps. And that night, we had an FCSS meeting. And yeah, on the 28th, they then had a grievance and a building committee meeting on the 28th. And I think that filled out my month. So if there's not any questions, I'll move my report.
Any questions for Councillor Custer?
Just curious to see all these building committee meetings, what's happening there.
Well,
A lot of them, so.
being on the building committee, they Barrie Architecture, they're working towards a schematic plan, and basically they're still working on the land at Kinsman Park, seeing if we can get the building to fit on it. I guess they're confident it'll fit. Looks like it might be about maybe 5 stories. They're still in the schematic part of it. So they draw up a little plan, and then there's building committee. There's 5 on the building committee. We quiz them and make sure they're in tune with wants, needs, dreams of the area. And that being said, the building committee has also wanted to have an extra building committee meeting before the Barrie one, just to the Barrie building committee meetings are facilitated by George Barrie's architect, Isaac, and they're very condensed and very to the point, not that much time for discussion. So the building committee found it advantageous to be able to discuss it and put some points together, supply it to Isaac, and he can incorporate it into the next presentation. So we're getting very close, end of the month, where we're to have that schematic. And when we get that done, be able to share that schematic with the board, and then the board will disseminate it out for sure. Yeah, so it's they're not long meetings, they're an hour, 2 hours long, and just streams. But we have not done any budget stuff. We have not. We're still in the dreaming process, trying to get a schematic. So a schematic, for those who don't understand it, it's more or less the footprint of the building, and accommodate how many rooms we want. It doesn't have how wide the corridors are or any of that. So the next part of the schematic, and that should be going on this week, they're going to come out and talk to stakeholders, maintenance staff at the lodge, kitchen, housekeeping, the LPNs, and see what they want in a new build, how big they want. They'll be talking to the Hospice Society on just what they think there are. And always in the back of the mind, we're hoping, waiting for our expression of interest to the Alberta government. It was supposed to be done on Christmas time. Here it's February and still haven't heard anything back. So yeah, it's just participate, wait and see what happens when they draw a picture, then participate again. So I don't know if that answered your question, Scott, or not.
Yeah, just one follow-up too. You mentioned the site downtown there. Has the board or the building committee committed to that site? Because I thought it was up in the air for I thought there was an assessment or something being done of different sites.
No, we haven't committed to the site. That was during our consultation part with the community, that was the overwhelming popular site. So now the schematic, the big part of it is to see if we can actually, if the site lends itself to a building, and looks like it will. So the next step before we can commit, of course, is environmental. And it's an old railway bed. There could have been some industries there. We're going to have to go to at least a stage. I think is that a phase 2? I guess it is phase 1. They do a historical look at the property. Phase 2, I think they actually drill it. Phase 3, if they find something, they get the high hose in and dig it up. 4, I think, is remediation. I think, from what I understand, I don't know if it's right or not, hasn't been drilled. But when the town built their new town office, they had extensive environmental work go on there. Hopefully, that's where the most of it was. But yeah, before we commit to anything, we have to have that environmental done. And once that's all done, we'll have to go to the board, make sure that's what they want, and then we'll have to get a purchase price and move that way. And sometime before we go to there, I'd like to, I think the board committed to a public engagement when the schematic was done, so everyone has any more further ideas on what they want to see. We're trying to be open and transparent as we can. Just takes time too. Yeah.
So that reminds me, like there was an email that went around quite a while ago, and it was about something about the hotel that was over by Starbucks. There, an email went around. Is this something that you guys have been looking into in case there is no funding? Is this something you've brought up at the board before? Because that was my first board meeting and it wasn't brought up again.
Okay, no, it hasn't. That was brought up. There are some communities in Alberta. There was a grant. The grant is closed. Could be another one coming up. It was for repurposing infrastructure in Alberta. And there's been a couple communities who are successful in acquiring hotels, and they are going to remodel them for housing. But that housing is mostly for independent living. So they would be outfitted with small kitchens and whatnot. The Days Inn is the one that's for sale. Wouldn't lend itself for a lodge. It would be more for our independent housing, like if we wanted to, say, replace or add on to Doc Giffen or Sunset, that would maybe be a very attractive situation if you were to get a grant to repurpose that building. But no, we haven't been talking about it for a lodge. Just there's no land there. There's no place to, it's a nice building and parking lot, but that's all that's there. Yeah. No, there hasn't been any other talk about buying that. Okay.
Question in general to the board members, actually specifically to Tom, as you're not part of the building committee, but you do have quite a bit of background in building. Is it cheaper to build out than up?
No, it's cheaper to build up.
Build up?
Yeah, because you only got one roof, that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah.
Okay.
So it's definitely.
Just curious.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm eagerly looking forward to the schematics and the budgeting, and hopefully we'll be able to figure out what operational costs are going to be and that kind of stuff, because that will definitely impact the county.
And there's been no research done on the potential operations of a new build?
No, that I don't think there's any way you could figure that out without knowing what the square footage is, what the size of the kitchen is, and all that kind of stuff. So.
And if you don't know that stuff, how can you make the argument that this is a shovel-ready project? Just
You want me the answer?
Well, yeah, if you can.
A shovel-ready project is when the schematic drawing is done.
Are the schematic
Government.
drawings done?
No.
But did
Hopefully.
you not apply for shovel-ready funding?
Yes, we applied. So when the schematic drawings are done, then the government will look at the schematic drawings and say, yeah, and they will provide money to go to the next step. So the next step is more drawings, research, everything else that's associated with it. So when the schematics are done, they have pricing formulas that they can use. They know how much it costs to build a lodge. They've been building them for how many years? They'd say so much a room, multiply it by the rooms, ta-da. Operations take so much, ta-da. But the final blueprints are not done. That is part of the shovel-ready project. So once it's shovel-ready, it's probably another year before you put a shovel in the ground. That makes sense. And does it make sense to me? I thought shovel-ready is order up the bulldozer and get to work. No, shovel-ready is another year of planning. I know it don't really answer your question, but that's the answer I was given anyway.
And just another comment more than a question. So the Kinsman Park land was the highest priority for the community and those that participated. That's correct.
Yeah.
And I just find it hard to believe as a Wheatland County representative with the good stake into that organization that we were okay with having our seniors be put on the back burner while the town built a town hall on the preferred site. And that's just a really hard thing for me to get across. I mean, I just really disagree with that. I mean, if they knew it was a preferred site for the seniors, why did they push ahead? And now we're wondering if the location fits. I mean, for a lodge, it's a little disappointing that wasn't done before the new build or in association with the new build of the town hall. But that's nothing that Wheatland County can do. It's just a little frustrating on my end.
You want an answer?
Well, it's just more of a comment for those that are listening, that I think it's important for people to understand that it was the town's decision to take the preferred site away from the seniors of the community.
I don't know so much if that's the preferred site. Jason, the site we're using now is on the south end of the lake. It would be the lane there. I think it's First Street, is it? Or it's not as busy a road. It's still walking distance to downtown. The farmer market is going to separate the lodge from the town hall. But that road is a easier road for the seniors to get onto. They can go down to the Walmart and that strip mall there. And it's also just a little bit closer if they decide to walk there. I haven't seen any plans, no renderings, but the town has said they are working on walking paths and enhanced road for access to there. I haven't seen anything what they're building or working on. So I'm not I had to pick where the town hall is or where we pick now, I wouldn't say one's more preferred than the other. The one we're at now, we're definitely closer to the lake. There's more trees there. It's no parking lots and stuff like that. I think the park-like setting, picnic tables, access to the park, walking around there to the baseball diamond if there's a baseball game on, all that kind of stuff is better on the south side. But when they town decided to build their town hall, they offered up the present location, and there was, during the consulting with our community, not too many people wanted the present location where the municipal hall is. Not too many people wanted to go on the south side of the number one, but they favored the Kinsman Park area, and there was some kind of sketches at the Kinsman site park when we were doing the consultations, so people have a general idea where they are. But there's still work has to be done to finish the schematic. Still work has to be done on the environmentals, and I think from my perspective, hopefully the south site is a lot cheaper than the north site was hugely expensive to remediate. They had to dig a lot of dirt out of there, and I don't know what they ended up doing with it. That's not my business. They had to dig up a lot of dirt for stuff that was buried there in past ages. So yeah, that's a consideration. If the environmental is too costly, well, we might just have to look for another location. Everything's open, everything's fluid right now.
I don't want to thwart any conversation or any questions, but I am mindful we have an 11 o'clock appointment. Any other questions regarding Division 6 report for Councillor Kester? Councillor Kester, I think you moved your report already, right?
I sure did.
Any final questions? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We're going to move to our 11 o'clock appointment. We have Ryan Schmidt, General Manager and CEO of the Strathmore District Agricultural Society, joining us. Ryan, are you on the line?
I am.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much. So, Reeve and councillors, thank you, first of all, for taking some time for me this morning as part of your meeting. Sure appreciate it. The reason why I am here today is I'm seeking the appointment of a representative of Wheatland County Council to the Indoor Arena Advisory Committee. So if you'll recall, about a year ago, I visited pre-COVID, just before pre-COVID, because we were there in person, with Steph LeBlanc, our president, to give a presentation of our 5-year strategic plan. And one of the key elements of that plan was the construction of an indoor riding arena. It would allow the Agricultural Society to expand its mission to year-round activities, and I think also provides a great facility for Strathmore and Wheatland County in order to attract different events and to serve a large amount of user groups in the region. So the Indoor Arena Advisory Committee, the role of it is to really 3 things. First and foremost, it's to input into the design of the facility. So we want to make sure that as we design the indoor riding arena, it meets the needs of a broad range of user groups and stakeholders. So we have gone out and found representatives from all sorts of different Western events to ensure that we get their opinions at the table. So we have representatives from horse clinics, cutting horse, reining horse, 4-H, cattle shows, barrel racing, rough stock, timed events, and so that kind of covers, I think, a broad range of the different areas. And then we're also there's a few members from our board that are involved because the board needs to be buying in and staying on board the entire time. And we certainly feel it's very important to have a representative from Wheatland County as a part of this. The location that we are planning to construct the indoor arena is in Wheatland County. It's at the corner of Township 244 and Rain Road 250. So that's on Agricultural Society owned land there. So it's an obvious spot for us. It's close enough to Strathmore that residents of Strathmore can use it, but located in Wheatland County, where we expect, to be honest, with this facility, the bulk of our users to come from. So I mentioned the first role of the committee then is input into the design. The second portion of the committee's work would be to help us advise on fundraising and grant seeking. And finally, to oversee construction to ensure that we stick to the plan and everything goes as we hoped to serve all the different user groups. So just to give you a sense of the current status of the indoor riding arena, we've definitely prioritized this out of our strategic plan because it's so important to us and we think the future of the agricultural society in the region. So we have quotes on hand for design and permitting work. Like I mentioned, the advisory committee is largely established. We've confirmed the location we wish to build the facility, and our next steps really from January through to probably midsummer or towards the end of the summer, with the assistance of this committee, is to get the initial design completed. So this wouldn't be final detailed design. It would be the initial design, and also once we have that nailed down, to pursue permitting of the project through probably the second half of this year. So we're envisioning 4 to 6 meetings of this committee for the initial phase of the work, going through an iteration of designs. We'd start with a basic design and then get input from all the groups. We'd send it back to our designers to do a draft, bring it back to the committee, input again, and finally, after probably 4 to 6 meetings, we think we'll have the initial concept in place. That would allow us to pursue the next step, which would be, along with this, we would also receive a cost estimate based on that initial design. So the idea is first half of this year into probably the second half, we have the design nailed down, we have a cost estimate in place, and we're at some point in the permitting process. I was listening to the prior conversation about shovel ready. So interesting, that is the goal for this project, is to really get it to a point where it's permitted and shovel ready before we go out seeking corporate sponsorship and grants. I am hoping and expecting that infrastructure funding from the federal and provincial governments will continue to be announced over the coming year to 2 years as they seek economic recovery. And a shovel-ready project is always the type of project they're looking for because it can create jobs right away. So that's really the focus of this committee, is to get that project to that point. But at any rate, in the second half of the year and into the first half of next year, we hope to conduct our fundraising activities and successfully conclude those with construction to take place in 2022, and really get ready for a grand opening in time for the 50th anniversary of the Agricultural Society in 2023. So that's kind of the process we're looking at and where we're at. Just on the arena, just to spark some thoughts, certainly we went around already and have visited different arenas around the province, and we think a starting point for design is probably Claresholm. They do have seating. We'd expand on that seating because we want about 1,500. And then other aspects that would be considered as parking around it, penning, and RV and camping spots, which we've learned to be crucial points on successfully operating one of these facilities in a fiscally sustainable way. So that is kind of where things at. And just to recap, I'm hoping that Wheatland County would appoint a representative to this indoor arena advisory committee so that we could have a strong feedback and input from the county on the project. And thank you for your time, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ryan. This is super exciting. Anybody have any questions for Ryan? And thoughts on appointing a representative from the county to the committee?
I'd be happy to do it. It's in my area, but
You might know a thing or two about horse events.
I might have a heavy investment in
You have a
horses
good,
and horses.
you have some good backing there.
I've been to a lot of arenas in my time, yes, but Mr. Wilson's probably done way more than I have as well.
No,
Yeah, but he's leaving, so. No, I'd be happy to do it.
We all might
I
get
could.
fired, especially if I start flipping tables.
I would be more than happy to sit on this as well, as we do put on a number of Western events, my family, not me, my family. We've had the pleasure to see a lot of arenas as well. We know, we have the exact same expertise in
Well, you probably more than that.
that. So either way, I'm happy to let Scott or I sit on it.
Vote can be bought.
I guess let's start here. Do we have consensus about appointing a representative? I think it's really important.
It's very important.
Ryan, I really want to thank you for thinking of us and considering appointing one of our representatives to the board. It certainly aligns with, our values and our strategic focus and our prioritization of supporting our agricultural community. And this is certainly very aligned with that focus of council. And I think it could also align with some of the economic development focus that we're on as well, particularly from an ag or ag tech. I think having a facility like this could open up a lot of opportunities for this region. So I think it's very forward thinking and very innovative. I love it.
Very exciting.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm excited to work with you guys on it too. Like I agree, there's a number of ways to use a facility like this, and we're flexible too on different ways of operating. Like I know some conversations I think I've had with you, Reeve, is there may be interest in different operating models or how the county might like to be involved, and we're flexible about those type of things. So yeah, I think that this is a really important relationship for the facility, and that we explore those different ways of operating it and how it can be used for the county. So yeah, I expect from the county side, the input would be greater than just to say, let's make sure the gate's here and make sure this is wide enough for that trailer. Some of that stuff is going to come to play in these discussions for sure, but there's a lot of broader concepts with the county that we'd be happy to explore. So
if it's possible, Ryan, would you be able to say any of the names involved on the committee?
Yeah, sure. So from the board of directors of the Ag Society, there's our president, Steph LeBlanc. There's the chair of our strategic planning committee, Val Sliwa. And then there's also Kara Byrne. She's the former president, vice president, is now taking a turn just as a director, but she'll be on as well. She's got a lot of experience in this area. Then from Double S Barrel Racing, Denise Sluggett. She's one of the S's in Double S who runs that program. From our rodeo committee, we have Don Johansson representing Roughstock. We have Daryl Damon representing rodeo in general. We have Lauren Lawson representing timed events. We have Larry Kirby representing horse clinics. We have Ken Mix representing cutting and reining. And then I'm waiting for confirmation of Tate Ewell as representative for 4-H and cattle shows, which he's involved heavily in. And his mother has committed him already. I'm just waiting for him to commit himself. So
He'll commit. I'll commit him. He can commit.
So yeah, and then Scott Schiffner has also offered to help. That's a double up on the rodeo, but Scott's also got a lot of excellent connections that will be very helpful to the progress of the arena, I think. So yeah, so that's the committee, and we're hoping to have someone from Wheatland County. I have reached out to the town of Strathmore as well. I realize this is more of a agriculture county focused project, but it's going to be close to the town, and I'm sure that there's ways they could contribute to the project. So I want to have them at the table as well. So.
Was there any, excuse me, Ben Armstrong, through the chair, is there any, you're looking for one representative, but we usually have, when we set up members on committees, we usually have a representative and an alternate, so that if something happens, we're pretty sure that we've always got somebody there, one vote, but we usually have two members that are listed. Is that an issue?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'll put a motion on the floor that we appoint a rep and an alternate to the, whatever the board is called, whatever you name it.
I think Indoor Arena Advisory Committee is what Ryan referenced for the Strathmore Society. Ryan, did I get the name right?
You did, yes. Thank you.
Perfect. Motion on the floor, discussion.
I'm glad they're this far.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's really good.
I think it's a great timeline too, Ryan. I've heard, well, some of the residential construction costs have increased recently. Tom can probably speak to this better than I can, but I've heard commercial construction is actually really favorable right now for costs, so. Could
Well,
be
it's good to know.
timing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the motion? We will need a process. We'll deal with this first, and then we can deal with the appointment.
One, I mean, if.
We've got the arena.
Too old. Sure.
Any further motion, or any further discussion on the motion to appoint a representative and an alternate to the advisory committee? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. You'll find out who. Well, we probably should appoint somebody just so that it's in our minutes, like as per our committee structure. So typically what we would do is we would do nominations and then secret ballot if there's more than one. So.
Which one of you guys wants it? Who wants to be the alternate? Who wants to be the? I'll be alternate. There you go. It's done.
You can attend as many meetings as you want as an
You'll
alternate.
tell me anyway.
Somebody
They're not, you're there.
could put a motion on
I'll move Scott as the representative and Jason as the alternate.
Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Brian, that's excellent. We sure appreciate, I did recirculate that 5-year plan to council as well here just via email, just so that people can brush up on what your strategic priorities were and where you're going.
Excellent.
And I want to thank you for presenting to council, and we'll look forward to Scott and Jason kind of liaisoning between that committee and council and keeping us up to date. And you're always welcome to come back and update us or let us know what you guys are working on as well. We sure appreciate it.
Sounds great. I'll definitely take you guys up on that. And thank you again for your time today. And Councillors Klassen and Wilson, you're both most welcome to both attend the meetings, just so you know. And I'll get in touch by email there too with timings and whatnot. And thank you for committing to help with the project, though. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you to Council for considering this today.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Ryan. Take care.
Okay. Yeah. Have a great day.
Please thank your board and all your volunteers as well. You guys do phenomenal work in our community.
Sounds good. Will do. Sounds good. Okay. Thanks. Bye now.
Thank you.
Doesn't matter what the schedule is, my family will clear it.
Yeah, no kidding.
This is your most important.
Yeah, I need to, just go.
They'll pack you a bag lunch.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We're going to move to 3.7, Division 7 Councillor Report.
Thank you. It's on the computer. Margaret, January 20th and 26th, where it says executive meeting, that was Drumheller District Solid Waste. Just so that it has, you know what it is.
It's not just the executive.
No.
The world.
It's for the Drumheller District Solid Waste Association. And the SAWA board meeting was just this last Friday, so I didn't get it in on the report, but we were successful in our December 21st application to challenge the grant funding for the Emissions Reduction Alberta funding, and that is being reviewed now, and they figure about 90 days going through all the reviews. We should know by March 31st whether we've been successful in that or not. And hopefully we are. If not, then we have to make some hard decisions, and I'll fill you in on that in camera this afternoon. But the Rural Caucus has said that they will send support letters for us to the government. So hopefully that's 15 or 16 extra support letters going through. So hopefully that goes through. Yeah, that's about it. any questions? Otherwise, I'll move my report.
Forgive me, I don't know numbers. Is that just Southern Rural Caucus, or are you doing Northern as well?
It's he just said it was the rural caucus, and he said
Probably
it was about
Southern.
16 members, so I'm assuming, I know they've met with the Southern ones a couple of times, so I'm assuming it's probably the ones from Southern Alberta. Ones in the north aren't involved, won't be involved, and if this one goes through, then there's some interest in the second one going up in the north part, so.
Any questions for Division 7? Did you move your report?
Very obvious statement.
That's good advice.
Mhm.
Did you make a motion to approve your
And,
report?
yeah, I moved to, accept my, oh, and I think, Glenn, I think it's your birthday today, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you.
Do you want us to sing?
I'm going to recommend you save yourself the agony of me singing during a council meeting. Maybe in closed session. We don't want to subject the world to our singing. Happy birthday, Glenn.
Thank you.
Any questions for Division 7? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Move to 4.11, CAO report.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 60 is the CAO report. Just to note a couple things that are not included in this report, just mainly to do with utilities, is that red tags, we are starting that back up again. So some red tags will be delivered to utility account customers that are not paying their bills on time. And just also a reminder that the utility rate increase for residents is effective January 1st. So those rates will be going up. So this will be the first bill that we'll be receiving soon. And besides that, everything else is outlaid in my report. Just regular meetings, nothing too far out. The council resolution tracker is also on page 61. Finished that fire master plan, which was nice. That's been circulated to all the chiefs. And besides that, just kind of working on other things on there. If there's any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CAO Henderson? A motion to accept the CAO report? And I guess actually it's written now, accept the CAO report and further accept the council resolution tracker. We could have one resolution.
Also move.
Councillor Bigger has moved. Any discussion? Final opportunity for questions? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Move to 4.12, Organizational Policy, Section 1.
Yes, Council, Brian from Administration again. So on page 65 of the agenda package is just our Section 1 of our organizational policies. So what we're proposing is to rescind Section 1. And the reasons for this is that it's being, there's a couple different reasons. One, the strategic plan that was approved at the last council meeting has a vision, mission, and values. The roles and responsibilities, that doesn't necessarily need to be included in policy. So that is something that's approved at the organizational meeting that was done in October. It's updated as committee appointments are made. The other ones, the history of the organization, that probably doesn't belong in a policy. It's just kind of a fact, nothing that staff need to follow. And then the organizational chart is just being moved to the human resource policies. So further to that, as we do with every other policy, our policy committee thoroughly reviews policies, and we're trying to make sure that we're consistent with other municipalities. And we did poll about 13 other municipalities, and we were the only municipality with our vision, mission, and values in our approved policy section. So what we're doing is just coming in line and just leaving it in the approved strategic plan. If there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Council's wishes. Looking for two resolutions, one to rescind Section 1 of the organizational policies.
I'll make the motion for resolution one that council approve the rescindment of the following organizational policies: section 1.1 vision, section 1.2 mission, section 1.3 values, section 1.4 history of organization, section 1.6 roles and responsibilities, and in brackets 1.6.1 is committees.
Questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Looking for a second resolution.
I'll move that the organizational policy section 1.5 organizational chart be moved to human resources policy section to 6.4.1 organizational chart.
Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.13, Human Resources Policy, Section 6.22.
Yes, good morning again, Council. Brian from Administration. So this revision to this policy is for pay and performance. It's to include a section for acting pay. One of the recommendations out of the TSI report, the review of the Agriculture and Transportation Department, was to include an acting pay section, which realistically does make quite a bit of sense. So what it would be is any person working in a position higher than theirs for greater than 10 days, so anything over 2 weeks, would receive 10% of that employee's salary. So what we did was we reviewed all of TSI's recommendations, and a report is to come just for the rest of the recommendations as well. And this one, we did poll other municipalities as well, and it was about 50-50. Some did have them, some did not. The ones that didn't have one were, I think, over half of them were looking into getting one. And just to fairly compensate employees for taking on additional duties, it does, to me, make a lot of sense. So if there are any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Brian, just to
Yep.
be clear, this 10% is that their hourly rate on top of what they're currently getting?
Yes, that's correct. So let's say, and it could be hourly and it could also be salaried employees. It's not just exclusively to hourly. So let's just say someone was making $30 an hour and they were doing the job of a foreman while the foreman was off on a vacation longer than 2 weeks. So the person's pay would be increased over that span of period to $33 an hour until that foreman came back, or whatever position that person would be covering for.
Any other questions regarding the policy?
I'll make the motion that Wheatland County Council approve a revision to HR policy section 222, pay and performance, to include a new section regarding acting pay.
Discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.21, Corporate and Financial Services Report.
Good morning, Reeve Lincoln Council. Tracy from Corporate and Financial Services. I'd like to introduce Matthew Kerwin, who's sitting beside Corey. Matthew is our new IT support technician. Although Matt is not new to the organization, he is new to Corporate and Financial Services and was transferred from the Community Peace Officer program. We're delighted to have Matt join our team and provide support to Corey. Welcome, Matt.
And on behalf of council, welcome and congratulations. We're excited.
I'd like to provide just a few highlights from the report. We had a very successful detail assessment audit for the 2019 assessment year and 2020 tax year, as prepared by the Provincial Assessment Services Branch. We included the executive summary to this report, and if Council would like a copy of the entire report, please just send us an email and we'd be pleased to send that to you. There were only 2 recommendations that came from this report, and they have already been addressed. Our manager of assessment has already created an action plan to make improvements upon those recommendations. If you have any questions about that report, I do have our manager on the line. Just to note, our last detailed audit was in 2006, so it's been quite some time since we've had one. But our team did an excellent job on that. From financial services, we do have our tax certificates. They are up on the website. People can fill in a fillable form and also pay by Visa. Since we've put that up, we've made a few improvements to that, and we'll continue to make improvements. As well, an email was sent to Council regarding the ability to pay for expenses through the EFT process. So if you would like to take advantage of that process, please email administration back, and that's basically the first stage of the EFT project. So we're really excited about that as well. And lastly, the broadband survey is on our website. Corey sent me a text late last night and informed me, and I'm sure he'll touch base and tell you a little bit more about that during his broadband update. And those are the highlights. Are there any questions?
Any questions? A motion to approve the report.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Eichert has moved. Any final questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.22, credit request for commercial vehicle inspection program.
So this is basically a housekeeping item. Administration is requesting that Council write off the commercial vehicle inspection program invoice and provide these services as in kind. And this is for the period of July to December 2020 in the amount of $1,500 to the Strathmore Handy Bus and $1,800 to the Dallam Fire Protection Association.
Council's wishes.
I will move that.
Councillor Kester has moved
That we
the
accept it.
recommended resolution. Councillor Kester?
Right.
Perfect. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.23, Assessment Review Board.
The next request for decision is to appoint a member to the Assessment Review Board. The MGA states that we must have 3 persons appointed to our local Assessment Review Board. During 2020, we had an ARB member resign, and we therefore posted an ad for quite a length of time. And we're requesting that Council appoint Debbie Mitzner as a member of the Assessment Review Board for a 3-year term that would end February 2nd, 2024, as per the bylaw.
Council's wishes.
I'll move the recommendation that Debbie Mitzner be appointed as a member for the Assessment Review Board for a 3-year term.
Councillor Armstrong has moved. Any discussion? Any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And please just thank Debbie as well for applying and sitting on the board. We'll move to 4.24, broadband update.
Good morning, Wheatland Council. Corey Adamson, Manager of IT Services. I'm here to, along with Amanda Garner and Gary Schultz from Tricon Services. We're on page 102 of the council package, and Amanda is here to provide an update to the broadband project, and will be available afterwards for questions.
Good afternoon. Good morning. It's almost there. My name is Amanda Garner, and I'm with Tricon Solutions, as Corey just mentioned, and we have Gary in the back. He's here to support me and take some notes and to log any of your questions. In the board package is a brief update, so I'll just talk to that. We are following your council-driven priorities for business, industry, and residential. And in our initial stages here at the beginning, we're focused on the strategic plan initiative and creating that document for you. So what we're putting together is setting that project up, what it takes, the budget, the scope, and the timelines, and then gathering alignment with the Wheatland administration and yourself to make sure that we get to your goals in the way and shape that you want them to be done. In the creation of the strategic broadband, we've looked at 20 plus strategic plans from across North America. We've done a few interviews and analyzed a few projects and other types of these initiatives in North America. They're very interesting, and there's a lot of them, so you're definitely on the right track here. It's a very exciting thing, especially during the pandemic, so this is great. Just keep going. Initial discussions. Yeah, okay. So one of the things we've done is we've taken a look at the history and how we got to where we are. So we've looked at the Calgary Regional Partnership, your municipal development plans, and some other documents that helped us figure out where you're at and where you're going so that the strategic plan aligns with what you need. So we've taken a look at that. We've done a full analysis of the Universal Broadband Fund. They had a lot of details. So as we mentioned before, in the previous updates, we've decided to decline that because they require huge detailed engineering plans, schedules, timelines, and everything for the complete rollout. So we didn't have time to do that. So we've declined that. And the thing that we have that's most exciting, Corey mentioned earlier, is the survey. So that went out last night. And we have two surveys. We have one for the business and one for the residential side. We've looked at 20 plus surveys and come up with a really good one. And the data has come in this morning already. People are looking, clicking. We've got about 107 residential in and 4 business as 9 o'clock this morning, which is really good. How many was that, sorry? Pardon me?
It's about something else.
Okay. It was 107 residential and 4 business as of 9 o'clock this morning. The numbers on our way down the hallway were on their way up. I just didn't know what they were. So I think we might be up to 117 or something like that. So it got logged or opened last night around 3:30 or yesterday afternoon around 3:30. So to have that kind of turnaround in less than 24 hours is really good. So we have a few more media outlets we can push, and I have more conversations with Mackenzie about that. But we're doing really good. So really excited about those results. The other thing to note about that survey is it's actually really clean. So the data coming back is really quantifiable. So we'll be able to use it really well in your strategic plan. So, yeah, so that's where we're at right now. Was there any questions?
So I did the survey, but I couldn't get the speed. You know, when you click on
the internet was too slow to run a speed
well,
test. That literally has happened in my house where it like won't even complete the test.
It had the information as upload but not download, or download but not upload.
On the speed test? Okay,
Yeah.
I can look into that. Perfect. Thank you.
And yes, it was very, very slow. 2.99.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, Carsland area, very important.
You guys, we were making a observation with the data, very organized. We have a lot of people coming in from Carsland, so.
It is a top priority. I mean, right now, between the educational demands, work from home, telehealth, like, it is huge. So this data will be key, I think, for knowing where we are and where we need to go. So thank you for the development of that. And that is very impressive engagement already. So just ask every counselor to try and amplify that, whether it's word of mouth or whatever works best for your residents. Try and if we can get each division represented, I think that would be helpful as well. Any questions regarding the update? So timelines, and I might have read it, spring 2021. Is that sort of what you're on track for? Wonderful.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for, yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? A motion to accept the updated information.
Also move.
Councillor Bigger has moved. Last chance for discussion or questions. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will gather some data here as well. We'll move to 4.25, returning officer and substitute returning officer.
Tracy from Corporate and Financial Services. According to the Local Authorities Election Act, Section 13, an elected authority must appoint a returning officer and substitute returning officer by resolution by June 30th of the year in which the election occurs. The substitute returning officer is new for this election process. The county advertised for this position of returning officer for quite a length of time. We received probably about 10 resumes. However, on those resumes, there was no one with direct election experience. Possibly the skills to conduct an election, but no direct experience. So the senior leadership team discussed this and decided that it was probably in the best interest that we do this internally. And so the CAO recommended that myself be appointed as a returning officer and our payroll and benefits specialist as the substitute returning officer. And we're creating a small team to split up all the numerous tasks required to organize an election.
Any questions from council?
No, I'll move the recommendation.
Just an aside, this election could be slightly more complex than some of our recent ones just because of provincial referendum questions that are being tied to the municipal elections. So it looks like we'll likely need to conduct elections in each division, whether there is councillor elections or not.
That's
Although
correct.
I know some municipalities have been looking into if they have to do that or if they could have it at the county office.
So they, there is a Senate election and a referendum question. And so even if there's acclamation within a district, we still have to hold that election, the Senate election.
Senate elections mean so much.
So the province will take care of the advertising for the Senate election. However, we do have to have that on our ballots and, yeah.
Any other questions regarding the motion?
So I do have a question. So Calgary, the city of Calgary was going to put some questions into their election. Can any division or any municipality do that?
Yes.
So like Wheatland County could put a question that we wanted to ask in an election?
Yes, I would want to research that more
Sure.
and provide more accurate information to you, but it would also be a question to the entire residents of the county. I don't believe it could just be in one area. But again,
There's some specific, like there's,
yeah,
are some details to referendums.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I can research that
I
for
was
you.
just curious why the city of Calgary could do that.
It's typically reserved for pretty massive, like, significant issues.
Not that we would want to do, but that, I was just wondering why the city was doing it.
Any other questions regarding the process? And just a note, a thank you to our former returning officer. I understand that they weren't available this year, but certainly a thank you for the number of years of service that our former returning officer and their team provided. So that was
Yes.
invaluable for democracy in Wheatland County. So
Yeah, so Terry and Brenda Tower have been conducting the elections since 1986,
which is impressive.
and by-elections as well.
A huge thank you to them. Any other questions? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We're going to move to our addition to our agenda, which is 4.26. And we're going to move into closed session again because this is a second request for a consideration of a letter of support for the Universal Broadband Fund grant application. So I will move us into closed session. Is anybody opposed? Motion is carried. And Glenn will, or Councillor Kester will communicate the call-in information for the closed line.
Thank you, I already got it.
Perfect. We've moved back into open session. I just want to confirm that Councillor Kester is on the call. I'll just give a moment for dialing in. CAO
I'm here.
Wonderful. CAO Henderson?
Yes, I'm here as well.
Perfect. Any motions arising from closed session?
I'll move that council approve that the administration staff send a letter of support for Rigstar Broadband initiative.
For their application to the Universal Broadband Fund?
Yeah, for the grant.
So a resolution for administration to draft a letter and a letter of support for their application to the UBF. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We are going to recess. Is everybody okay with 12:45? Yep. We'll reconvene at 12:45.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to call the meeting back to order. Just confirming that Councillor Kester is on the line.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. CAO Henderson?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. We're going to move to 4.31, Community and Development Services Report.
Good afternoon, Council. Matt from Administration presenting the Community and Development Services Report for January of 2021. Just some high-level highlights for each division within the department to present to you for last month. And actually just one that isn't included and we'll provide some more fulsome detail next month for our report is that we're beginning the planning of the community cleanup event. If Council recalls, we did discuss this in Q4 of last year, so we're beginning that planning. And that'll happen at the end of April during, as we mentioned, pitch week. So we're looking at hamlets as pilot cleanups, and we'll provide some more fulsome information to Council next month once we begin kind of getting some further planning there. So for next council meeting as well, we have our What We Heard report from the community engagement for the open space, recreation, and cultural master plan. So we're getting ready to present that report to council, and then subsequent to that, we will be compiling that report and that master plan to present to council for their consideration moving forward this year. Economic development, as some council members have mentioned, we have started those WC conversations monthly, and we're getting some really good feedback there, and we're very happy with that, and we'll continue those throughout the year as well. Fire and emergency services, of course, we are continuing from the fire and emergency services perspective of really hearing those COVID-19 updates and providing information from the emergency management perspective to the organization should any changes come forth as well. You will note that we do have some really good pictures on page 109 of the Carsland Fire Hall, and that's coming along. So foundational work, and actually we have the structure. There is a structure that has been erected as well, so that's very exciting as well. So we're moving forward from that aspect, and I'll provide some further information and updates once we receive them as well. We are continuing those bi-weekly social media blasts as well for the fire hall and those updates, and we've got some really good reception from the community as well. And additional data for your consideration for dispatch, dispatch type, and fire hall data information as well that we've parsed out, and planning and development updates for your consideration. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Community and Development Services?
No questions. I'd just like to reiterate the comments that I've heard about how well the fire process went through. I know council got emails. Oh, sorry guys. That was Donna. I know council got emails, but I've been in contact with a number of firefighters, and they just want to make sure that you guys know how well of a job that our staff did.
Thank you, and I'll definitely relay that.
Any other questions or comments? A motion to accept the report.
Also move.
Councillor Bigger has moved. Any discussion? Any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.41, Transportation and Agriculture Report.
Yes, good afternoon, Council. It's Mike here with Transportation and Agriculture Department. On page 100 of your package, you'll see the January Transportation and Ag GM report. You can go through and I can answer any questions in the report. Just some highlights. Gravel sales, we've set some dates for gravel sales in the county here. They're advertised on our website and available at the front here. May, July, and September dates at various pits throughout the county with Goldsmith, Christensen, and Chiswick. So we're trying to hit each quadrant to try and spread out the distribution of these sale areas. So hopefully those go quite well. We've already got quite a bit of interest in the revised rates and that sort of thing here. So the equipment, so we've gone through a lot of the construction equipment here now, and we have a list of sale items. We've decided on an auction house for that, and it will be going forward in an April date. We estimate about $3 million worth of equipment will be sold at that sale alone, so quite a large, substantial amount. We did have a number of local and Calgary area auction houses contacting us for this, so we did an analysis of it and picked the one that would best suit us. So that'll be going forward in April. And just so everyone's aware, Gleason Underground tender's been released this week. So that's for the sanitary replacement on 8th Avenue, going up past the arena there. So we're hoping to have that closed the 16th of February. Afterwards, we'll schedule probably a virtual town hall meeting, just kind of meet with the residents and let them know our communication plans and schedules and that sort of thing. So when I get a date for that town hall meeting, I'll make sure that council's aware of it there. And that's the highlights from my report. I'm able to answer any questions if you have them.
Just another comment. I too have got, one could say, interest for the change in gravel sales. Some concerns about the amount of days and the ability to farmers to get them when they need. And I explained the reasoning behind what decision was made, and that council was very aware of what they were doing. But maybe and perhaps you're already doing this, but for educational purposes, can you maybe put out the cost that's incurred by the county by crushing and excavating, so they understand that we're not trying to make a buck off of somebody, we're not trying to screw the taxpayers out of a service that is optional to begin with. So
Yeah, no, definitely we can put a little additional communications on there as far as, I think when I presented this last year, you see that we're basically at cost, if not below cost with our current rates right now. So
yeah, and
we definitely relay that to.
I explained that to the individuals that called me, but just perhaps make sure that the broader public's aware, because according to them, they can get it cheaper in Drum, which I said, well, you're more than welcome to go to Drum.
So I had the same. I had a large egg producer with some concerns. By the end of our phone conversation, I think same thing, just outlined the rationale, the liability and safety concerns that were brought to our attention by administration, the staff time and the impacts that it has on our efficiency and just our ability to get like our core work done by having it just be kind of carte blanche. And then the consideration of competition with private sector as well. And I said, like most things, we are striving for cost recovery where we can, and that is more fair to the private sector as well. But it was pointed out it's a service that we have always provided. The gentleman I spoke with remembers when every ratepayer got a load of gravel delivered, to their land. And so, and I did say council took that into consideration, the importance, particularly for our egg producers, and that's why council did continue. I also said that we did commit to doing this way for this year, but that we will be listening. And if there's feedback, I got some feedback about dates that might work better for the egg cycle, just minor adjustments. But they did appreciate that it's in different geographical areas, different times of year, that we're trying to be accommodating. I will bring it forward when we review this, perhaps like next fall or winter when we kind of circle back and look at it. But there was this egg producer actually had an idea for a possible online booking system where you could purchase your ticket and possibly book. It could even be within those days, but there was a concern too about just lineups and waiting and efficiencies, things like that. Whereas an online booking, perhaps you could still be open, but maybe preference to somebody if they had an appointment booked or like a time slot booked. But yeah, good feedback and good questions. There was recognition of what we were trying to achieve by structuring it a little bit more. So
through the chair, since this come out, I've had comments from some as to when they could get it or where they could get it, and my comments to them, and they didn't have an issue with it. They were just concerned that they weren't going to get it when they needed it. So my discussion with the one fellow, and he's fairly large farmer, I said, you just got to plan you know how many bins you're going to be building next year, if you're going to be building any buildings or stuff, you've got to start adding that into your planning and make sure that you're available on those days that it's open and stockpile your gravel, which you can get. And because a lot of them, they phone you up and say, where's the gravel trucks? I need gravel tomorrow. I got bins coming. And, and then they get upset because they got to go buy it from a private. So.
And that's what we talked about too. Like the ratepayers can manage a stockpile too if they need to for their operations. So, but I did say that we are listening and we want to be responsive. Like if there's something that isn't working and there's an adjustment we can make, that we would take that into consideration. But I know sometimes like there's general timelines for harvest and stuff, but it's so weather dependent and like the conditions can factor into that. So it can be challenging to time it, but.
And I too said the very, very similar things, that dates can be flexible later on. We just crank some new stuff out.
Yeah, and through the chair, it's good points, and we have considered that. We put 2 days per sales date here, but knowing we're taking inventory of where these folks are hoping to get the gravel from, and if we have a huge amount in one pit, we're going to add an extra day there. Like we are open to that kind of thing as well. We wanna make sure we don't just shut them down and say, sorry, we'll have to wait till next year kind of thing, so
That's
Well,
excellent to hear.
move it around like that.
So you're kind of monitoring, that's awesome.
As we go.
I had a question on, Muirfield, lot sales.
Mm-hmm.
So, duplex lots, how do they work? Isn't that a bigger lot? Like, how are they being sold?
So they, I believe that they are sold, individually as the, as a package for each side, but
Oh,
through
okay.
one contract. That's how I understand them to be sold.
Okay.
Yeah. The ones that are on the St. Andrew's Close, is that the ones you're
Yeah,
talking
that was
about? Yeah.
kind of different, how they sold them in Speargrass, but, okay. Like, they sold them as a larger lot. Then the duplex was built, and then they were sold as two separate.
And the actual building sold separately.
Right.
Yeah. And that's how I understand that. Let me, apologies, my manager of utilities isn't on the phone right now, but I can clarify that sort of thing.
And the lots were actually bigger, so they were actually more expensive. So like a family lot sale is, what are they, $1,000 each, $100,000 each. And then, like at Speargrass, that lot for that duplex would have been worth $120,000, kind of thing. And that's why I'm a little, wondering how that's listed there. And then another comment is, I take it 8/17/24 is definitely a go. They're taking down all the trees and they've got equipment there already.
Correct. Yeah, through the chair, there's a action RFP coming up next year for land purchase on that. I have talked to the contractor or the engineering consultant, and they are forwarding me a plan that I can forward on to council.
Perfect.
To have.
I've had
and that you can distribute out to the public as well.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they weren't, be able to meet the timelines to do a public consultation on this, so that was their decision on not doing public for the upgrades on here. But they are gonna send us their final design that we can forward on and even put on our website.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought somebody was making firewood there, that's.
Just another quick question.
Yep.
I know AT wanted to have the contract out for the 901 by the end of January. Did they end up getting it out?
I have a meeting with them on Thursday, so we're still negotiating with the landowner there. I'm following up tomorrow, and we're not gonna hold up the contract, so if we can't come to a solution, we'll keep moving forward.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions for transportation or agriculture? If not, looking for a motion to accept the report.
I'll move.
Councillor Wilson has moved. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.42.
Okay, thank you. On page 109 of your package, you'll see the RFD for an offer to purchase of the Northeast 52225 west of the 4th. You'll see on the figure on page 114. So this is a portion of county, a former gravel pit / stockpile site that we have near Speargrass. This, as I mentioned earlier, is being revised for the new alignment of Highway 17 and Highway 24. So the province has requested that they purchase a small portion of our land there to facilitate that revised alignment.
Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accept the offer to purchase approximately 0.561 acres with a sum of $3,534.30, made by the Minister of Transportation for the purpose of the survey and construction of a public road upon or across the land.
Questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Move to 4.43, 5-year unpaved road construction plan.
Okay, thank you. On page 116, you'll see the RFP for the 5-year 2021 to 2025 unpaved road construction plan. So this is a plan that we've typically had in the past. We had a 10-year plan, knowing that it was hard to predict that far into the future. We had reduced down over the last couple of years. Actually, just for your knowledge, on the corner here, we have the last approved plan. I printed out there, 2018 is the last time council approved the actual road construction plan, the end of 2018. So this is our proposed proposal for the next 5 years of road construction. So what we are looking at here is twofold. We're looking at a contracted road plan, as well as letting council know what we're looking at for internal road construction. As everyone's aware, we disbanded the in-house road construction program this year, so we are taking that crew and focusing them on maintenance and repairs of smaller jobs. So you'll see that in one of the handouts here on page 120. It's just kind of a analysis of where we're going to go with our internal crews. Doesn't need council resolution or anything. These are all under operations. I just want everyone to be aware of that as we move forward. So looking at the road plan, we did a really detailed analysis of it. I think I mentioned it to council in budget discussions that we looked a little more detailed at how we're determining which roads we need to do. We based it on, I think, 11 different metrics as far as road condition, traffic counts, flooding issues. It's included in your package there, just kind of what we've based this analysis on. We rated every road on those different metrics, and then we came up with a weighting of each one, a scaling of each road. So that page 121 just kind of shows the decision matrix parameters that we set up for each one of these. And then we had our group go through each one of them with the internal staff and just kind of weigh each one of them. So that is, and you see a couple examples of that in the package here as well. So Range Road 205, as well as Range Road 244, the two that we have proposed for 2021 construction. Just kind of showing you where we weighted these two roads and why we're proposing or recommending that we move forward on construction of them. So yeah, sorry, I'm bouncing around a little bit here. So on page 119 is the actual plan. Councillor Kester, it's been included in your package, and everyone has a hard copy in front of them here. So we're looking at significantly scaling back our road construction plan here. Typically, we had done 6 to 8 miles a year, which was quite hard for our internal crews to meet, and even with contracting the jobs out, it was a little bit too much, too ambitious for our project list here. So we have significantly cut it back. We're looking about 4 miles every 2 years here. So we are going to be skipping every second year and just putting those plans going forward in 2021, 23, and 25. So what we have proposed for this coming up year is Range Road 205 and Range Road 244. These are two jobs that have been on the works for a number of years, have been included on the road plan in the past, and we're proposing to move forward with that. 2023, we're looking at Township 280, which is one that we've gone through, done a significant amount of design work on. I think we spent about $230,000 worth of engineering and wetland approvals on that road. So to continue on with that makes a lot of sense, and it's a road that we still deem as necessary to be built. And then the 2025 jobs that we're proposing is a newly identified one in our discussions here. It's the connection between Highway 24 and Boundary Road near Cheadle. So it's a two-part job. We have 3.6 miles to the west of Cheadle, and then a reconstruction, and then a brand new constructed road through the wetland, well, I should say wetland, through the urban areas of Cheadle there, which will be brand new construction through there, and that'll complete that link between the two road networks on that. So these are our proposals. You can see on page 120, we've included every road that we've had on our road plans to date and weighted each one of those. You'll see that we're not necessarily going through the list from what we deem as the most necessary priority-wise, taking into account the commitments that we've already, or council has already made to the landowners in the area. Like I say, you see Range Road 205 is on here. I have to say this one is one that I would be questionable as far as doing it if we didn't receive the funding. We have applied for resource road funding and got 50% approval on this $5 million job or $4.5 million job. So we received $2.25 million in grant funding that needs to be utilized by the end of this year. So talking with I think you remember a lot of the basis behind the decision on this was a major expansion to the Torques or to an oil and gas facility in the area. Speaking with our assessor, there's no commitment by the company to do that this year yet. So we're hoping we would have had something a little firmer with them, but I think they said there were 50-50 chance they're going to get it done. So just to pass that on. So I guess, yeah, this is our proposal. Definitely open to any comments from council, any questions about the weighting scale that we've used here and how we've come to our analysis and our recommendations. And yeah, open for discussion.
Open it up to questions. Council's wishes.
I just have a question, Mike. Glenn here.
Yeah.
On that Township Road 2, sorry, I got a bug in my throat. On Township Road 280, what did you do for culverts in that road? Are they're going to be a lot bigger than they are now, or because when they built Highway 9, they really put a lot of culverts in that road. I'm just wondering if we'll put bigger ones there. How is it going to affect the next road when we come to them? Is there a plan, or is it just, gosh, we're in a corner and this is what we have to do?
Yeah, so through the chair, we have discussed that quite a bit in the design of this, knowing that the existing culverts, even the proposed ones, are likely not adequate. So knowing that it's 2 years away in this plan here, we are, I mentioned with a new engineering consultant as well, we'll have them take a fresh look at this bridge design that they've already proposed for it and see if it still meets the requirements we have.
So when they designed that, would they make the road a little bit higher there so that the water would back up, say it could back up for a day and use the night to drain away, or is that something we try and shun? Because the only other alternative is it's just going to wash the culvert out, wash the road away.
Right. So yeah, through the chair, it is a possibility to have a bit of upstream storage on that. We want to make sure we take into account that we're not flooding out the upstream neighbors, let alone the downstream as well. So, like I say, we're aware of the issue on that culvert, and we'll be relooking at it with our new engineering consultant.
You could do what some of my ratepayers do. They just take a load of dirt and dump in front of a culvert there in the number 9, and that would solve a lot of problems.
There's so many problems we could solve that way.
At least they don't put the culvert or the counselor in the hole before they dump the dirt.
That we know of.
Yeah.
Could still happen. Any other questions? I have to say I am incredibly grateful for the matrix and that it gives us a data-driven methodology for making these decisions and for bringing that rationale to council. I think this is a huge benefit just to our decision-making process. And I know you guys you guys have done so much work historically to establish an incredibly good transportation system in Wheatland County. And that was done strategically. But we are in a different time now too in terms of, you know, industry and the fiscal situation and those types of things. So I think this will be a really good tool for making decisions going forward. There's something else. Oh, and I think just the other key messaging thing that I know I need to stress with my ratepayers is that balance of, even though we're constructing less roads or reconstructing less, that we are focusing those resources on the maintenance and that side of it, so that we're still maintaining that high quality transportation system that we have, and that we're not letting that be compromised despite some changes with how we're kind of handling this infrastructure going forward. So. Any questions, comments? Or resolution?
I'll move that council approve the 2021 to 2025 unpaved road construction plan as presented.
Open the floor to discussion.
I have no problem with that. I just, thinking, we're gonna have some small projects identified too, like smaller portions of road, are we not, in the future?
Yeah, definitely. So, through the chair, on page 120, that's what I was mentioning, the in-house road construction plans. So we do have, these are just some the big ones that we have planned. Actually, a good point where we're talking about the maintenance focus. So in 2022, we have Township Road 264 presented for road work. Previously, we had 4 miles proposed on this road. Now we're looking at less than a mile. We're going to take one hill that's a real safety concern for everyone in the area and cut that down and make it better sight lines, not necessarily having to do the whole road to get that accomplished. So I think this is a really good one to point to of, sorry? It's right at the intersection of 201 Range Road. So there's a significant hill, especially coming from the east, going westbound, that it's an accident waiting to happen. I think there has been many in the past. So that is one that we're planning on hitting in the start of next year. I don't have it on the agenda package, but that's right. Yeah, that's in-house. We are still going to do some road work that we can. The pit road out by Dallam, it's a gravel pit access for one of our newly formed gravel pits there. We're going to do that in-house because the standards are a little bit relaxed for internal roads like that. So.
Mike, were you thinking of looking at our road standards? I know there's a road by my place. It's straight south of me on the other side of the access road going up that hill. And a few years ago, it was pretty bad. The road was lower than the fence post. I'm talking the bottom of the fence post. It was a major canal almost. Anyway, staff built that road with a grader. They got a couple graders, and they pulled the sides up, and I think it ended up there was a low spot there. They got a scraper for a day. But you built that with the graders, and you packed it down, watered it, and all that. It wasn't an engineering thing, but staff did a really good job, and it's one of the best roads in my area. I think our staff are highly skilled, and I don't have a problem looking at that kind of solution for a lot of these shorter roads. That we don't need to engineer them. We don't need to have the scrapers and contract them out and build to the standards we have. Just relax the standard. It's more of a standard that we used to have. I think we called it a resource road, or now we just have the one grade. And I'm just wondering if we shouldn't be looking at a reduced or a second standard like we used to have. Because I'm telling you, that road is one of the best ones in my area here. All the others are elevated graders, and yeah, no, my hat's off to staff that built that. I'm thinking there's room to do more of that in the county.
Yeah, through the chair, definitely agreed. I think we had removed the resource road standard about a decade ago here now, and the requirements for private landowners as well as the county to meet these new standards is definitely something that we need to relook at, and the decision behind that. The Alberta Transportation Standards does allow for a relaxed standard on these sort of things when you're rebuilding a road. Definitely brand new construction has something as transportation manuals are requirements they have to meet, but rebuilding roads, you don't always have to meet those requirements. So that's something we're going to start reverting back to a little bit more. Not necessarily not necessarily a less safe road, but it's a lesser standard road on this. So.
Any other questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 5.1, correspondence. The thank you letter from STARS for the commitment to annual support. There's some correspondence from the MD of Bonnyville. I believe Councillor Eichert wanted to have some conversation around that. And there's some correspondence from ratepayers in Division 7 regarding issues with their land and illegal trespassing, some impacts with illegal hunting. There's a request in there as well regarding fencing, further signage. I've spoken with these ratepayers as well. It's significantly impacting their ranching and also just their overall quality of life for sure. So I guess let's start with, I don't think we really need to discuss STARS. It was nice that they sent a thank you letter. The MD of Bonnyville letter regarding federal advocacy. I will just make one note, and we are following up with Bonnyville about this as well. But RMA over the last, I don't know the timeline for sure, but they identified a need for more Alberta or Western specific federal advocacy. So that is part of the advocacy strategy for RMA. And we're just in the early stages of developing what that will look like, but it may be a consultant that will focus on that sort of as a sub-project of RMA. Some of it would be done in collaboration with FCM. Some of it might be on issues that FCM doesn't necessarily identify as priorities, but that have been identified by rural municipalities in Alberta. And so that's just an awareness piece. And I know this is certainly a topic of conversation around a lot of municipalities right now. It's been at, I think, for sure, one of the recent district meetings. So definitely concerns. One question I did ask about FCM, just out of curiosity, there seems to be, I'm going to try and be diplomatic, I'm really trying to be diplomatic, some partisanship on the part of FCM. And I was curious if when the Conservatives were in power federally, if there was a partisanship, like more of a right-leaning partisanship at FCM. And I was told by somebody who's been around for a very long time and was involved at that time, prior to that time, and at that, like through several iterations of federal government, that yes, FCM does tend to try and align with the government in power at the time. And so when the Conservatives were in power, it did take there was maybe a little bit of a lag, but that they did align with the conservative government of the day, like more of a right-leaning perspective, if you will. So that actually had just come to me. I hadn't really considered that up until maybe about 2 weeks ago, but it is something that I notice, and I think it comes, and I think we see it at different levels of government right now, where levels of government are noticing trends at higher orders of government, and at times that influences the direction or the position that they're taking on something to maybe increase their chances of success with different initiatives, economic development, and kind of anchors of our economy, things like agriculture, our energy, oil and gas. I think we have to be strategic in how we do things so that we are aligning, and we see it in industry as well, actually. Like if you look at some of the major oil and gas companies, they're setting goals themselves to be, you know, I don't know all the verbiage, poisoning themselves environmentally. Just some observation.
Everybody knows my disdain for this organization. The fact that they are actually they're another level of government. They've got $1 billion a year that they get to dole out. And it's not, I've come to the conclusion, it's not for me to say that we have to get out of FCM in this term, because that is probably something that should be left to the next council. But we as Albertans support this. There's an awful lot of membership from FCM to, because when I was last there, that room was full of supporters from Alberta. Like I was quite surprised, and I really don't see the benefit, but looking at what is, I'm willing to give it another year to see if they can. I don't think it can be changed. I think it's too Eastern centric. I don't think it's any different than the way the Canadian government is set up. So, but yeah, no, I just wanted a discussion on this, and the fact that, you know, we sit down there and go, well, yeah, but we got money, we got funding from FCM and all that kind of stuff for different projects, and that's all well and good, but they do get $1 billion a year from the federal government, and we're going there hand in hand to try to get some money. And I think this is a good letter, or it's a good idea, because I think maybe Alberta Wise will find out whether or not our membership as a province, like municipally across the province, is worth it. Like if we are making up 20% of the membership, should we not be getting 20% of the lucre? Like, I mean, and if you can make that argument for me, then as jaded as that is, I can live with it, right? You know, so I just. Do
you find 20? I have in my head like 30%.
Well, it could be it's a big number. It's a big number considering there's, you know, like I know for Ontario and Quebec, we far outweigh what they support, but they also know that the money is automatically going to come to them. I mean, like they don't have to work as hard. You know, it's when you're the good-looking one in the group. This is what I've heard. You don't have to work as hard you don't have to spend as much time with makeup. I spend a lot of time on makeup. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
I did just want to check that everybody, I don't know how much you guys follow FCM, but they did issue a statement January 28th, a statement from FCM's Western Economic Solutions Task Force. I can circulate it just to highlight it, because I know FCM sends out a lot of stuff. And it's a very nuanced, balanced statement. But one thing I was grateful to see is they specifically use the word pipelines. And one of the things, I know we sometimes think we don't have an impact, but at advocacy days, and I will bring a report on Friday to district meeting, I was very frustrated with the work of West, and I pulled out their own terms of reference and referenced those during our advocacy days. And I don't have it with me, but it specifically references energy corridors and accessing markets, and they were not addressing that. And I know this is a small step, but the fact that they actually issued this news release regarding Keystone, and in it they do specifically reference, I should have been more organized for this, but there was a reference to the corridors and to the importance of that. They used the word pipeline, which I think is a struggle for them. And I recognize the challenge, right? Because they're trying to balance east and west perspectives, and that's not an easy thing to do. So there's definitely work to be done. This is going to be an ongoing conversation and an ongoing question, and to a certain extent, it's going to be up to the FCM board, which Paul McLaughlin, our president, sits on for RMA. He also sits on West, and it will be up to them in how they respond to Alberta, ultimately. And then it will be up to the rural municipalities of Alberta to determine if that response is adequate or not. And if the value is not there, I think we are a powerful voice within FCM just because of our sheer numbers. And the choice will be theirs whether that's important to them or not, like how they balance those perspectives.
So is that application Western Economic Diversification Canada? Or is that something separate?
So WD is an actual department of the government. That's who funds Community Futures. No, so they developed that task force, the Western Economic Solutions Task Force. They call it WEST. That's like under FCM. Okay. Al Khmer sat on it.
Yeah, I remember West.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Then all the big,
Robin
then
Kerpuet.
all the big city mayors
Yes.
after that, right? So, you know,
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
which is really loses its rural perspective as we've seen at CMRB.
But we do have some strong allies. So some of the strong voices for this response came out of Saskatchewan, very much. Randy Golden is the chair of West, and the president of the Saskatchewan Rural Municipalities, Ray Orb, has been a very strong advocate as well. And so I think we have to remember too, it's not just Alberta, it is that sort of prairie perspective is how I look at it. That we need to, I want to still continue to try and advocate for that, but also be continuously evaluating that, so. And concurrently having RMA do some advocacy, because I think that will be key.
I'm the turn off the taps kind of guy. Faster. You want to get response, just don't send gas. It works way faster than all this political crap.
Exactly, the people understand really understand.
When your house isn't warm,
Yeah.
people kind of realize what's needed. And that's what's sad about this, is we're doing all this political stuff. And really, just shut it off.
The sad thing was too, when we went the year before, it was a lot of Albertans. They told us that it was the biggest percentage of participation through that conference.
Did they have anything for rural? Did they have
No,
anything rural?
but then, okay, I get it that year, because we don't know any different, right? But the next year that you guys went, you didn't see any difference.
I've never been.
Oh, sorry.
They did have rural, they had a whole rural stream, but it was very eastern centric.
Yeah, exactly, it was like,
Yeah, same.
how to raise your 25 turkeys, that kind of stuff, right? There's such a disconnect. And I understand it, because Alberta's got, how many got? We got 34 seats. Toronto's got 51. I understand that disconnect. I wouldn't care if I was in Toronto about anything else either, as long as my bread is being buttered on the right side. I understand that. I just don't see how you. And maybe there's a difference. Maybe this will be the only group out there that can make a difference. And I understand, and I appreciate you working, and I appreciate you, because anything comes from FCM. I have yet to open one of those letters. They might as well all be viruses because
I will.
Hello? Hello?
Hey, Glenn.
Hi. You kicked
I
the
think
phone over? Or?
No, not me. Actually, Margaret, she has, she's having the same problem. I'll let Corey know, and maybe we'll just have to dial back into that number. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Glenn.
I'll give it a couple minutes so you get it fixed for me.
Sure. Sounds good. Okay, thanks.
Hello? We back on?
I think we got it fixed.
Okay.
Brian, were you able to hop back on?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that technical delay.
No worries, it happens.
Don't let it happen again.
I think FCM was listening, so that's probably what happened to the line.
Just shut it all down.
They probably were.
We'll call the meeting back to order. Is there any further discussion regarding the correspondence from Bonnyville? Okay, the next piece of correspondence was from ratepayers in Division 7, from a ratepayer, Kate Tracy. I know.
Read that, because they had problems. They had problems last year, but this year they were really exasperated out there. Somebody went in, and I talked about it last meeting, they knocked all the signs down for no trespassing. Then they go on the hunters go on the gravel lease and park there, and then they wander out across their land, and this year they found a dead goose in amongst their cows, and they had the cow police, or whatever you call the rangers out there, and I think they've caught 5 of them, nailed 5 guys out there, but they're concerned that that we have no trespassing signs on our gravel lease, which borders their land, but we don't have any policy for controlling the trespassers that go on there. Even if during next year, if you look at it through your hunting season, if maybe you address it through your constables and have them go out there and patrol it a little more often, it might help them out. Because we might put the signs back up, but
They are asking for some fencing as well on the southeast half of that southeast.
fencing is nice, but if they're parking there and walking in, they're gonna go through the fence anyways. Like, it's really bad this year. They had more hunters out there this year, and they usually give permission for people to go out there. That's not the issue, but they give one person permission, and there's 4 guys already out there, and they're afraid somebody's gonna get, their cattle are gonna get hurt, one of the two.
Yeah, they're not worried about anybody else.
I think a long way, if we send a letter back to them, telling them that next year during hunting season, maybe we'll up our patrols or something out in that area to maybe help them out a bit.
I would just like to ask staff if they could send somebody out and get pictures of the fencing that's on those quarters.
Good idea.
It's not fenced, it's open.
It's gotta be.
No, I mean, their side has to be fenced, 'cause
yeah,
there's
their
cows.
side is.
I'd like to see that, and a cost analysis of fencing our pieces.
I would like that as well.
Personally, I'd like to see that.
Remember, you fence stock in, you don't fence it out.
No, it
This is fencing in the gravel pit.
If they're using that land for
Yeah.
stock, they're responsible for the fence.
Oh, yeah, but I think it's a deterrence for people. I mean,
Their land is fenced. We have a slice of land in between the road and their land that is open where the gravel pit is.
There's a road that goes through there.
Well, and the whole gravel pit, like they go right through. I may or may not have driven this. They go right through adjacent to the gravel pit. and then it's fenced. Their land is all fenced.
Yeah,
Well,
it has to be.
But if there's a road allowance, is that,
It's not a road allowance.
what's
Well,
the
I mean,
impact of fencing in the
on
gravel
the
pit?
south side,
I guess. Is there an operation? That was my
Yeah.
second question, was cost. The second piece was, how does that affect operations? We have other gravel pits that are fenced.
Yep, so.
no, I'm for this. I mean, a fence does deter.
Yeah.
It won't deter again, but, you know, it'll deter maybe 80% of the people that are currently trespassing. So you still
Well,
got-
it improves enforcement, because if our peace officers or Fish and Wildlife, if they have to park on the road or outside of the gravel pit, they're visible from our road.
Right.
Whereas if they can go through the gravel pit and they're not hiding, but parking on our land to access private land, then it's not as easy for enforcement by any body, whether it's Fish and Wildlife or our peace officers, because they can't see them. Whereas if they're on the road and they see them there, that's easier. And they're less likely, honestly, probably to poach if they're gonna be that visible.
Yeah.
That'll help, but there's still a road route that runs north and south all the way up through our gravel pit and down through their land, which is public property. They've got stock in there. If they still can't stop them from walking down that road lounge. But if we can stop them from parking up there, and they park on the road lounge too, the only way you're gonna do that is to have patrols going through there.
Absolutely. That's a part of it for sure.
Anyways, I'd like to see a letter sent to them telling them that, yeah, we did. Tell them we put up the signs again that they knocked down, and that we'll.
So Mike, just a question, there's that south 80 acres. Is that, how long before that's used?
Yeah, can I use is this computer hooked up right now? I just wanted to show where we're located here.
Because it's obviously undeveloped, that south 80 acres.
That's correct. So the south portion is what we consider the Niglorian pit. Here we are. So, Glenn, Councillor Kester, we're just looking at the map on page 150. So this portion here on the southeast 28, that is county land, Niglorian pit, right? That is an old gravel pit that we're currently trying to get a reclamation certificate from. And once we do that, we're hoping to sell that. We're hoping to dispose of that land. So I'm hoping in this time next year, we won't even have that land in our inventory. Knowing what future work we have to do on it, I think to fence that right now would be a loss of money. I don't think it's a prudent use of the money to fence any of that. Second concern is that this land between the county-owned pit, there's a AP pit that's right here, Alberta Transportation Pit, that they're actually looking to sell off. We have the county pit, which is the western portion of it, and then we have a private landowner between the two, and there's an access actually right off of the highway here into that land. I'm not sure if that landowner is permitting hunting or not, but they are able to drive onto that land and access any parcel they have around our pit there. So.
And it looks like that landowner that's named up on the screen is farming our gravel pit, portions of it, and ATs?
Correct, yeah. So it is, I mean, we did do a high level cost. It'd be about, I can get a more detailed one. We're looking at about 30 to 40,000 for fencing of our pit and the Niglorian pit there if we wanted to go that way. Another option we looked at was maybe just putting Lego blocks across the access to our pit on the south, at least that, the big concrete blocks, at least that kind of stops some of the access through our existing approaches. We can't put anything across the public road now, it's public access, right? So all we can do is, like you say, enforce it as much as we can
So just to be clear, and Amber, if you've been up there, is there any fencing along the east side of these parcels, including the private property along the road? None whatsoever. None along the Alberta Transportation gravel pit?
I think between ours and, I didn't actually even know there was a distinction, I have to be honest. I don't think it's differentiated, like there's no delineation, I don't think. And I don't think that south pit you called it I missed the term, the name of it.
McLaurin pit.
I don't think that's the issue. I think it's
Just the main.
by AT and it's on the west side. There's a valley just on the edge of that quarter section, and that's where they go.
They have, the applicant, the one that wrote the letter, his uncle has a pit up there too.
Quarter to the.
So you can see this is our county pit here. The Alberta Transportation pit is here. This is the private landowner. This is the McLaurin pit, and this is the road allowance that goes to I believe the owner that submitted the letter owns this pit right here. Right there. Yeah.
And I don't think the road allowance is the issue. I think the issue is the access through AT's pit, through ours, onto the private land.
Right.
And it is fenced just past those pits
Like to the north.
to the west.
Oh, yeah, the pasture's fence.
Yeah.
So I guess going forward, we can bring back a cost analysis for fencing that, just for council consideration.
Yeah, I would mainly focus, and
On the main.
it would be good to talk to the landowner to clarify, but I think it's more, I wouldn't worry so much about that south section, and with road allowance, obviously, you have to leave that open.
Section.
Sorry. Piece, but to me, it's that one where AT's and ours are adjacent.
You were saying that pit up top there is one of those, is in the process of should be reclaimed?
The south pit. This is actually an old gravel pit here on the south. It's called the McLaurin pit.
That's not part of the problem.
Oops, sorry.
But AT is being reclaimed right now, and they want to put it up for sale?
Yeah, we've actually had an offer in, or we've discussed buying this pit from them. So it's like I say, that fencing that off may not be, it wouldn't be our option right now because we don't own it, right? So we'd have to consult with AT if we were going to fence their pit as well, right?
How hard would it be to get their permission to put a gate up and fence their own pit, like fence along the road? That'd be probably cheaper by the looks of it and easier to control.
Yeah.
What's the timeline for potential sale of
It's not
that?
an issue it's only an issue for a month.
Well, more like 3 months, September, October, November, because it starts
Yeah,
when
it's
bow
bow
hunting season starts, and it goes right through to December. Plus, actually, even off-season, honestly, because poachers don't care about seasons.
Council, just Brian from administration. So kind of just a couple things for your consideration. So the province did approach us to purchase or to sell this pit and land to us. We didn't really think it would be in the county's best interest to purchase this land and pits, just because we do have, I'd say, in the top 7 of gravel inventory in the entire province. So we'd be adding to our gravel, very large gravel inventory for something that would be used, say, 50 years down the road. And then the other piece too is that if there are complaints during some of these peak times, we have peace officers on duty that can head up and take a look at vehicles that are parked. Typically they're parked for a long time, by the sounds of it, during hunting season. So we can head up there, we can ticket, tow, we can kind of do whatever we can on our property, right? So there's kind of some options without really putting forth that big of an expenditure, just to potentially mitigate something when we have people on staff that can kind of do this work. And as for the gravel pit, we can bring something forward to council, but kind of just administration's thought on this one is that we already do have a vast supply of inventory for gravel. So we thought there probably isn't much of a need to add more to it at this point. If council wants more information on that, we can certainly bring it forward. But those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Who made that subdivision then? AT?
Yeah, it was decades ago for sure.
Yeah.
personally, myself, going in there and trying to fence off that stuff, you're not gonna get everything you need to get it. To me, when I was talking to Rhonda, her biggest concern is that we weren't patrolling up there, we weren't doing anything in there, the signs weren't up, there was nothing. They couldn't go in there and tell them they couldn't get off of our property because it's not their property. If they're trespassing, it should be our job to tell them to get out of there, not the landowners. The landowner can't tell them to get off the gravel pit.
Okay.
That was her frustration, because she got to talk to them and say, well, listen, your land, you can't take us off here. And they just wait till they left, and then they walk back across the fence, so. I don't see going up there and spending $40,000-$50,000 for 2 months out of the year where they have an issue with it.
Well, like I said before, I'd like staff to bring back a cost analysis of fencing our piece off, our northern piece off, and then to see the process of working with AT to get a fence along the road rather than like have those two options. Because I think fencing the road is going to be cheaper by probably $6,000 knowing Denny. So there's going to be less brace posts, there's going to be less gates, it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper just to go with along the road.
Sorry, it's through the chair, along the road and on the south portion here as well, or just along the road?
Well, I don't know if nails are farming that, it's pretty tough to.
Just because there is an access right here and clear path right into that land there, so to fence and stop right here wouldn't make any sense.
No.
Yeah, so we'll get a quote all the way south portion here and north as well.
Yeah, but they don't wanna go through their land.
There's a road allowance here. There's a road allowance here. That's all public access.
Where are you pointing? Sorry, can you do that again?
I think just over one.
That's not, well, I guess that's.
So this is the road.
There it is,
Yeah,
right
there.
there.
So it's way
Goes
over.
all the way up through there, and that road allowance there comes all the way
There's
in
no road
here,
allowance
so.
there. Your road allowance is a mile south, so it would be a mile north, like.
No, this road goes up there.
Yeah, but there's no road allowance.
I know, but it's still at public access. That's what I'm talking about. There's public access, like Mike says, you can't block off public access. You can fence.
But is
all
that
you
a
want.
road allowance? I thought road allowance is when every 2 miles.
2 miles north south.
Yeah, so if your road allowance, I don't have a pointer, but if your road allowance, so, no, I want township road allowances. So your road allowance is there, like where Mike's.
Allowance here.
And then you gotta go 2 miles up. You don't go a mile up for your road allowance.
Yeah, the other one's still there.
Yeah, so I
I
mean,
don't think that is a public access
No, it's
right
not.
there. If it would be, put a motion on the floor, Jason, and just see if there's an appetite to bring an RFD back with costing for the fencing. It may not be feasible.
Yeah.
I recognize what CAO Henderson is saying about enforcement, and I definitely think that's a key element. The challenge is just the sight line, and the sight line is due to the gravel pits. Like, it just impedes that for our peace officers to be able to see in there, and, yeah, that's part of the challenge is the accesses.
The IT guy.
I don't know why I was pointing at the IT guy. He might be familiar with that role as well.
you were bylaw before this?
You don't-
I was kidding.
No.
I was kidding. Yeah, I'll put a motion on the floor that staff bring back, I don't want to say a recommendation, but, cost analysis of fencing options for whatever gravel pit. Name,
McLaurin.
and, Fish Lake gravel pit.
But separate them out, because
Yeah.
I just want to dig into that a little bit.
Naglorin.
Yeah, whatever that.
To clarify, we'll bring back a few different options, and I'll show you exactly where that fencing is
And some
intended to
photos
go.
might not be bad, just to.
And along Alberta Transportation Pit, along the road. Yeah. I don't know what road that is. It is Highway 564.
Any questions or discussion? So it's just asking for more information on cost analysis and potential options. No commitment to do anything, just looking at possible things that may help mitigate these issues. Any questions or discussion?
And if we're gonna do that, I think we should send the landowner that sent that letter in just to reply that we're looking into it, and we will let them know that what we come up with.
I can do that if council, do you want to add that to the motion, just a follow-up letter?
Well, there can be two motions, you can have it down at the end of that
Do you
motion.
even need a motion? Probably.
Yeah.
For that. I'll have a friendly amendment to respond to the landowner.
Any other questions or comments? That is a good point, for sure, Ben. Any other questions or comments? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. My apologies, I was considering 5.2 under correspondence. We should also do a resolution to accept the correspondence as information. Sorry for being off track there. Councillor Armstrong has moved. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And does anybody feel the necessity to respond to Bonnyville, or they did have some questions in there? They did say they just hoped the letter sparked conversation, asking council to take time to reflect on the level of service. Looking forward to hearing any feedback.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything major. The discussion that's been had is good.
Okay. Hopefully, at some point soon, we'll be able to actually see our colleagues from Bonnyville, and we can have more conversation.
Well, don't hold your breath.
I'm not holding my breath. All right. I'm going to move us into closed session. Prior to us moving into closed session, we'll have each councillor affirm that they're in a private setting where they'll be the only person able to access confidential information in order to uphold our council code of conduct.
We didn't do that last time.
I know, I just realized that. That's okay. All of council will be in council chambers, I'm assuming can affirm. We'll have Councillor Kester just affirm.
I affirm.
Perfect. Move us into closed session. Is anybody opposed? Motion is carried. We'll circulate another call-in information.
It's gonna be the same thing, isn't
It Councillor Wilson has moved us out of closed session. All in favor? Or, sorry, is any councillor opposed? After this much time, is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. I believe we have 3 motions arising from closed session.
I'll make a motion that council endorse either a letter of support or a joint project application for upgrades of reconstruction to the one-lane bridges on Highway 842 and Highway 547 located in Siksika Nation. Further, that we reach out to Vulcan County to have their support added as well.
Any questions on the motion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. A motion regarding penalty to tax roll.
Wilson moves that council authorize an additional 25% of fair market appraised value to tax roll 6274000 based on the information provided totaling $10,000.
Councillor Wilson has moved. Is there any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. A motion regarding organizational chart and pay.
I'll move that, we accept the organizational chart as presented in camera.
And the changes to the pay grid.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye, Glenn. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.